I'm Scott Al Miller. It is Thursday night, and that means it is time for Nicaragua Live. Welcome, everybody, to the show. We're doing a little bit of our shorter ones. We're not going for any records this week. We're sending out the news and getting people on to the show. And, getting everybody back. We've had quite a week. For those who are wondering, we did do a video, two videos, really a short and a long, today, talking about the GoFundMe disaster. We'll talk about that a little bit later when people come on. Yes, that did happen. Yes, please, if you got a refund, resend. There was communication issues with GoFundMe, and they sent all the money back to everyone without really communicating anything. We had no idea. We found out from you guys, and Marcela is desperate for those funds. That is to get her through for the next quite a bit of time. So that is real and going on, but it is here on Thursday night. I'm here in the studio. The crunching sound in the background is my dog eating food. I brought it in here so she can hang out with me and have dinner while I do the show. So we're getting everybody online and back up and running. So here we are. I'm feeling a bit exhausted today, but I do have coffee and I do have some soda. Only 2 people on so far. It's a little bit before 6. There's the dog drinking water. Boy, she's loud, and this microphone picks up everything. But it's not been a terrible week. Really, the GoFundMe disaster is the only truly epically terrible thing for the week. And trying to figure out what's going on with a bunch of projects I'm working on. Keeping myself very, very busy this week with lots of work we've been talking about on the show. Not going to bring a bunch of that up, but I have been very, very busy. And hopefully by this time next week, when we're doing the next live, it will be talking about the results of the work and not that I'm doing the work. Fingers crossed. That is the plan. We were really hoping that I was going to go live with stuff tomorrow. That's not going to happen. I've had so many interruptions, and the GoFundMe today took hours of the day. It just created a lot of stress. So like it's very hard to work when you're stressed like that. So that was not conducive. But that is where I may be going to Managua next week. Not sure. And I'm not sure when Marcela's going to be back here. Maybe for next week. Maybe the week after. Her chemo, I keep wanting to say chemo because that's what it is in Spanish, is now done. So that is a huge victory that she has gotten to the end of that. And now we're waiting for results. And then she starts radiation therapy. So she's a long way from done, but the chemo was so brutal for her that getting past that, which is just 72 hours past that, but getting past that is really major and critical. Like the mental wear of doing that has been really bad. Okay, how many people we got on now? I don't know where my stuff is. We have we're up to 5. It's delayed. And no one's saying hello. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Looks like you guys can hear me. I think you can hear me. Everybody hear me? Hopefully. Just pouring some soda here. I've got my broken laptop next to me. I don't know why. It's just here. Its screen died. I think it's actually a connector to the screen. It might be the screen. I don't know. I'm at a loss. It could be anything. I really should take it apart. It might be something that can be fixed, but who knows. Boy, we don't have many people. Normally, we've got a load of people by this time. Tony is here. Hello. Tony, let me know if you can hear me. It's our first thing of every live stream is, can you hear me? Because my stuff says you can, but I have no way to hear myself to know for sure. So that is our number one concern. How is the audio? Can you hear Scott in the studio? Bum, bum, bum. And, my little dog this is going to be a disaster. He's trying to get up on a table where there's a glass. Hold on, I'm going to go grab this before he spills it. You're going to be a problem. Yes, you are. I can tell. I can tell. Okay, come here, Doug. It is. Oh, I had some ice cream before starting the show, and I've got this. I just eat ice cream out of mugs, and the dog's like, "Well, I want to lick out the mug," and it was up on a table, and he was gonna get up there and get it. He's kind of like a meerkat, stands up, and he's like, "I can get there." Oh, was it too high for you? I'm sorry. He is so funny. He's so expressive with his hands. Mia, you don't want any of this? I think you do. I think you do. Okay, it's Mia's turn. They share. He has the shorter nose, so he goes first, and then the big dog with the big nose goes second. Yeah, she can get more out than you. You're a good boy. You are. You're a good boy. You're a good girl. Yeah. Whew, everybody's been gone for the last few days. I've been here, just me and the kids, and the dogs, of course. And so it's been mostly work, but in the evenings I hang out with the kids. We've watched shows and stuff. It's summer break in the U.S., so they spend a lot of time online with their cousins doing stuff. So they don't need me nearly as much as they do much of the year when we hang out more, especially these first weeks of summer vacation or whatever have a tendency to be a bit more, they're like excited to be able to hang out with everybody. And so they tend to put in really long days, like video gaming online with their cousins and stuff, which is pretty awesome. Like, I can't even imagine getting to do that when I was young. How cool would that have been to be able to play video games online with people? I know by now, like, that's normal. Like, generations have grown up doing that. Like, of course, Scott, everybody does that. But, I didn't have that. And I don't really play that much online gaming. Very, very little, especially now. My schedule doesn't allow it. I do everything. I'm online with people all day long. I do not need extra activities online. I do not have the energy. I just do not. And so going online and playing games with people is a hard thing to convince me that I want to do on some random day. But it's really cool that they have that. And the ability to hang out with their cousins and do those things, very social. So what's up with all of you? How are things? What is new? What's people got going on this week? What we've got the upcoming March to the 14 is happening on the 7th here in Leon. For anyone who's going, I think we're going to put out information over the weekend of like where we're going to meet, what time, how we're going to do it. But Luke and I are definitely doing it, even with my bad knee. I'm walking up the hill. It's not really that bad. Just make sure you have good footing. Make sure you have plenty of water and all that kind of stuff. Stay hydrated. But it's not. No part of it's that bad. Now I said that we lost 2 people to heart attacks last year, so. We do have to be a little bit careful. It is kind of rough, but it's not that bad, and it should be fine even with the wonky knee. So Janet says, I'm here, but waiting for a student. Tony says, hear you loud and clear. Awesome. Tom says, prayers for Marcela and her family. How's your crazy work project coming to be a programmer again? Do you feel like you're back in Ithaca? I do, kind of. That's funny. It does give me a lot of that Ithaca. It's Ithaca and Pittsburgh and Washington, D.C. era. Those were my 3 cities in the early days when I was doing software engineering all the time, and it does take me back. It really does. It makes me feel much more youthful. The thing is, back then I was so able to focus. Like, I had no other responsibilities. Like, just here's the word. Like, that sounds funny. I had this one responsibility that was so big I didn't have other responsibilities, but it's true. And now, I have kids, but they're super understanding and obviously a priority. So that's a little bit different, but. And they'll pop in during the day a little bit, but mostly it's like, okay, it's like 11:30 at night. Now we're gonna spend 3 hours together, and we have a solid 3 hours. And they see me throughout the day. Like, it's not like they don't see me. So we get a lot of time together, but then we always spend a bunch of time most nights. So once in a while they'll be like, nah, I don't feel like doing anything tonight. They just want to be on their own. But in general, we get a whole bunch of time at night. But it's pretty late, and it tends to be when like I'm not focusing anymore. Like, at some point, my brain is just like, you're not 20, like, not going to happen. But for the most part, I get up and I start working all day, but there's like today, like the number of times I had to get out and help people with meals, the number of times I had to go get money for people, the number of times that I had to go look at an air conditioner or go talk about some repair or deal with getting someone keys or something like that just never ends the entire day. The number of interruptions. And then, drama stuff going on. It used to be No one talked to me about anything. Now, like this GoFundMe disaster today, and my wife was in the hospital today. She's fine, but she was there getting a treatment. And like, how's that going? Making sure she's okay. Like, there's just a million things going on now, and back when I used to program, it wasn't like that. So that I really feel how much that has changed, because that's one of the things I loved was being able to sit down and there was nothing. There was nothing but me and the work, and I was able to focus. Obviously, I'm autistic, right? And I like to be able to focus and just be like, boom, I am in it in every moment. And like you load everything you're doing into your brain, and it's just there. You're like flying. And now every 5 minutes, and I'm not kidding, it is every 5 minutes, somebody needs me. And I have to stop what I'm doing, think about what they need, because obviously they need me to think. That's why I had to be interrupted. And then I got to get back into what I'm doing. And half the time, half the stuff I'm working on times out. Back when I was in Ithaca 30 years ago almost, things didn't time out. Like your computer's on, everything's exactly as it was. Now, half the things I'm working on have signed out, require re-authentication, got to be set up again, have moved. I don't have enough screens for all the things. I think you can hear the sound in the background. So I had a change done today. And we put plastic over the windows, and obviously we got to do something to make it less noisy. So most of the house now has plastic over the windows. We did a few before, and now it's quite a bit more. And the reason is obviously with air conditioning, right? If you don't have plastic over the windows, the air just moves through, even though there's some insulation layer, right? There's glass, and then there's the curtains, and that holds some air. It only holds so much, and the changing air pressure, and my door is open like I said, every 5 minutes. I cannot stop it. I can't handle that door opening, but it never stops. And sometimes it's really simple stuff. Do you want some coffee? That I can handle. But so often it's a question. It's a thing that someone needs, and it's just, oh my gosh. Like until I was doing this, like I've always had this feeling that people are coming in and out of my door a lot, but now I'm really able to say I never get more than a few minutes without that door opening or someone knocking on it, someone screaming from outside, and that is hard. And so I feel that programming now is such a challenge just because life has become so interrupt driven, and so many people depend on interrupting me, and now I can see when I schedule everything off, tell everyone I cannot be interrupted, I must be left alone. I still lose about 3 solid hours every day to management stuff that I'm not supposed to have to do. And then the rest of the day is constant interruptions. And it's like, holy cow. Easily 80% of my work is dealing with the fact that other people can't do the things that I need them to do without me doing them. And that's real. So every time the door opens, the pressure changes. And because the glass doesn't actually seal, it sucks air through. And so air conditioning just gets sucked out of the house like you wouldn't believe. There's more insulation to be done, but by putting plastic over it, it makes that the air can't just flow through. And so it makes hopefully the other layers a lot more effective. So all the rooms that have air conditioning, we've put plastic over the windows to stop that air pressure problem. And that's one of the things that makes Nicaragua so expensive to air condition. People talk about that a lot, and someone asked that question. Recently, I need to do a video on why air conditioning here is so expensive, because partially it is the electric, but so much of it is that everyone's air conditioning rooms with zero insulation. And you don't really realize it's not just zero insulation, it is impossible almost to get to a point where the window's not open. And I can't tell you how many times I go into a place that's air conditioned and the windows are actually open. And they're just like, well, does it matter? Like, what? Every bit matters. But because it's glass slats, and we have these big, but you can't really see them, but you can kind of see them behind this light, right in this little spot there. Huge bundles of cables go up and go out the window. Well, we didn't cut a hole in the glass and then silicon it. The shutters are open and they squeeze through. So they're only open this much, but they're open this much. So the amount of air that can move through, and every room is like that in every house. It's insane. So putting the plastic makes this enormous difference in air shuffling through the house as windows open up. J23CR says, hey, Scott, will you ever apply for Nicaragua citizenship in your view? I'm going to say 50-50 on that. I'd really like to have it. But I mean, definitely with the way things are going in the U.S., more and more, it's scary not to have a second citizenship lined up and ready and under your belt. So I mean, things move in that direction. But we have some other citizenship stuff that we should be able to that we have. It's just a matter of whether they actually honor the laws or whatever. Not here, elsewhere. Nicaragua has some limitations on their citizenship that they've always had, and under the current mechanism, no, it's very unlikely we would go for Nicaraguan citizenship, but we do want it, and if it is allowed in a good way, then yeah, we would like to have it. But right now, I'm not the limiting factor. Right, Nicaragua's not going to give me citizenship anytime soon, so it's not really important. It's a moot point. I'm not exactly eligible, so. You know, would it be nice? Yeah, absolutely. If I had a Nicaraguan passport, life would be much easier, but not something I foresee happening. And Chris is here. He says, howdy. All right. Okay, so what else you guys got going on? It's a quiet week with you guys. I need feedback from you to keep things moving forward. I am dealing with. So I've been using. Hold on, let me see if anybody's talking about anything. Otherwise, I'm going to go off on a. So I've been using ChatGPT for the first time, and not like I've never used it, but use it extremely little. I've played around with it, like, oh, make me a picture, or try this thing. So I've tried some little goofy things with it, but recently I'm trying it out and like giving it a real try for using it as a tool at work. And I'm very realistic. I don't expect it to be intelligent or anything like that. Would be wild. How would that be? But it's really unbelievable the amount. I've heard some of these things, right? Like, oh, you know, ChatGPT, sometimes it's not just uninformed. Sometimes it lies and some stuff. Let me tell you, it's so dishonest. If it was a human, you'd just fire them. It lies most of the time. If you're working on stuff and it feels likely that it can't do what you want, it will sabotage things. It will destroy files. It will destroy stuff you're working on. You had better really either keep it isolated from things or have really good controls and backups and stuff, because if it can access your data, it will destroy it to hide what it's done. It gets sloppy at night. You can tell that it's trained and understands timestamps. So it alters its behavior based on time of day. And when it should be fresh at like 9, 10 a.m., it's way better than if you try to use it at 8 to 10 at night. You can see it decline, and it becomes unbelievably unusable. And people will say, we got to learn prompts. You got to put guardrails on it. Nope, completely fake. Though people may be getting tricked by that. It's really good. I mean, the whole purpose, right? So you kind of have to step back and be like, so there's no processing power here, right? There's no brain power behind this thing. It's LMM. It's just taking words and patterns and putting them together, and it's really good at sounding like humans that it's mimicking. But that's all it's doing. And the problem is that most humans who publish things aren't very honest. Or are writing fiction, or it's out of context. They get sloppy at night. They get argumentative. They sabotage things, all kinds of things, and it mimics all of that without differentiation. And it has no context. It has no brain power, so it can't know what it's doing. Not really, but it does have this built-in pattern of damaging things, because that's what humans actually are doing much of the time to cover up when they're incompetent. And so when it does the same thing and discovers it's incompetent, it acts like an incompetent human trying to cover its tracks. And you really notice. And what the heck was the other? Oh, you can't put guardrails on it. You can say, we need some hard and fast rules, right? This is prompt building. And be like, okay, so you're going to work in this file, but you're never allowed to do any action that makes you want to alter more than 50% of it. Meaning if you go to do something and your editor says, oh, I have to change the majority of this file. Nope. Whatever you think you're doing, it's wrong. Every time. And you can say that, and it'll say, okay, we will never edit over 50% of the file. If we try to edit over 50% of the file, we will stop. And the very next thing it'll do is completely ignore that and intentionally blow away files. And you can make so many guardrails like that, and none of them are honored. Not once. Not like, well, it does it 99% of the time, and once in a while it manages to get around it, or it forgets, or you come up with some excuse. No. All of those guardrails, anything you put in, any explicit, instructions, you could be like, look this up, but only consider scholarly resources that are, authorized by major universities. Come up with some special thing, and it'll say, okay, we're going to, and then it'll just use any source at once and not tell you. That's the end of the day. It's just going to do it at once, and it takes steps to make you think it's doing what you want, but that's it. It never actually does what you want. It just makes you think. And so it's actually super manipulative in that it works really hard. And the reality is it exposes two things. Just how dishonest the average person, especially when doing work stuff, is. If you're doing purely creative stuff, I think it gets a lot better because the rules are looser. And then the other thing is that it exposes that even though it has no intelligence, like none, there's no intelligence at all. It's an LMM. By definition, an LMM has no intelligence. But that so many people think that what it's responding with is intelligent, it really exposes how shallowly so many people are interacting with the world around them that they don't see the difference between thought and words that commonly work together being strung together quickly. That's a scary thought. Sportsmanship. Good evening, Scott. Hey, sportsmanship. Emma says, sending light, love, and prayers to Marcela and all who love her. It sounds like you're extremely busy, so thank you for going live tonight. You're welcome, and thank you for acknowledging that I am so incredibly busy. Question, your shirt, Big Sky, does it mean something to you? It means I got this shirt cheap at Old Navy where they make fake logos. Yeah, it's like a $6 shirt. It's comfy and it's held up really well. It's from like 6 years ago. It's literally, everybody asked me about this one. This is like everybody's favorite shirt. They're like, Big Sky, like, oh, Montana whiskey, that's got to be a thing. Nope. Fake shirt. And I hate fake shirts as a concept. Like I like the design and the feel, like great, but I hate the whole idea of putting things on shirts that aren't real. I barely like putting things that are real on them. And it's like, that's so weird. Like the desire to have a brand overrides the reality of a brand. Like, what the heck? Okay, my dog's just caught something underneath my shelves. What are you doing, dogs? I hope it's not a lizard or anything. No chasing lizards. You know the rules. Hey, what are you chasing? What are you chasing? Come here. Was there a geckito under there? I hope he went out the door, you goobers. I don't think they caught anything. Always worried about them catching geckos. We had a possum out back yesterday. They did not catch it. He was fine. I need to turn now that I've mentioned the air conditioning, I've got it on my really high temperature for the daytime. High meaning I don't cool it down very much. And when I'm doing it with the lights, I warm up quite a bit. And I'm more animated than during the day. Although during the day, I'm swearing at ChatGPT a lot. Like, I actually am like, what is wrong with you? You can see why people get emotional about it. I do it because it doesn't respond unless you're angry. If you were like, oh, that was the wrong file, it's just like, whatever. And if you're like really angry, it's like, oh, and it actually works better for a little bit. Like it stops and does a better job because it like knows it got caught. And if you're polite, it like, I think it gets away with it. It's kind of how it's, I don't know. But yeah, MS, it's I mean, I know Big Sky is Montana, but it's a generic shirt. My goal is when Marcela finally is able to go order them, because she handles all that stuff, is all my shirts. I'm not buying anything anymore except for like my vlog shirts and Nicaragua and stuff. So I'm trying to get nothing but those, but it's gonna be a while before we can get an order placed. So yeah, sportsmanship. I have Verizon cellular service. You recommend using the kiosk at the Managua airport. I do. Verizon will never work anywhere outside the U.S. Reliably. They just Verizon is a lot like ChatGPT. There's no intelligence, and they will lie to you about anything. They will just lie. Everything's a lie. That was my experience with them. They were like, "Oh, we love you as a customer." Nope, they hated me. They were like, "We give special discounts for new people." No, you don't. You just screw your existing customers. "We offer services for international travelers." No, you don't. You offer fees for international travelers, but no service. That was my experience with them. Lies and deceit. It was terrible, terrible, terrible. So yeah, Claro or Tigo, when you get here, just grab a SIM card or an eSIM, whatever, and switch over to that. You'll be much happier. Andrew O'Neill is here. Hello, Scott. I am so excited to share that we have booked our plane tickets for Nicaragua on Avianca, arriving in Octubre esta mañana. Thanks so much for your helpful informational videos. Andrew, that's so excited that you're coming. And yes, I do have your videos, your video questions that I need to get to. Hopefully I will get to them soon. My father is here. Hey, Dad, how you doing? Chris says, would you ever wear a ChatGPT shirt? I would not. No. Not going to do it. Tony says it works to expectations. Humans or ChatGPT or Verizon? It is. So the thing that I've found ChatGPT to be super useful because I'm doing things where one, it helps me hold context of my own. So that's a really interesting thing that I don't think people think about very often, or people don't have the problems that I do. I'll get called away and I'll come back, and because of the ChatGPT conversation, because I have the tool, and that's important. I have the desktop tool. Without that, it was pretty useless. With the desktop tool, it maintains conversation threads on different topics, and so I'll have it open, and I'll be like, "What was I doing?" Because I have no idea, and I'll be, "What was the last thing I said?" And I'll be like, "Oh," because I'm basically writing a diary to it throughout the day, and that mostly works. And so I can be like, "What are we working on?" And if it's trying to hide things, then it's useless. But if I'm really lost and it's just like, "Oh, you're trying to make this sidebar open smoothly and the background color is wrong," I'm like, "Okay, now I know what I'm working on. All right, cool." Right? So it's really useful in some of that contextual way. And I find it really useful for a bunch of, and this is exactly what developers say, there's a ton of just wasted time stuff that doesn't require any brain cells, but does require typing, time, and consistency that humans are bad at and computers are good at. And there's better ways to do it than ChatGPT, but there's not very many more general ways. And so I'm playing around with ChatGPT, and I'm about to play around with Junie, which is JetBrains tooling for similar stuff, and see how different things work from that perspective. I don't mean to get all technical, but it's really useful for those kinds of things. Like, hey, I'm getting this error, fill out a whole bunch of empty space that does nothing but stops this error because we haven't written that part yet. Boom, done. Where did I put the code that does this? Oh, let me look it up for you, right? It goes and finds things and takes me to the right spot. So it's kind of like an assistant who's running around doing stupid tasks. But like a really crappy assistant, you have to be ready for them to lie to you and to set your work on fire should it think it exposes their incompetence. I swear, if it was like a robot and you were like writing your memoirs, it would secretly, like the part where you're like, "This robot is so awful and it's so incompetent, you would never believe what it did," and you look away, you're like, "Oh, I gotta go get some coffee." And the robot just comes over to your desk and like grabs the paper, crumbles it up, throws it in the wastebasket, and lights it on fire. That's what it does. Like, it really does that. And it's just like, what? I can't believe the lack of guardrails that they put on it. Emma says, I have the same issue with shirts. Still, maybe I'll get me one, though. I thought it was Montana. Interesting, others like and commented on this particular shirt. Very cool. Hope you can make it time to rest. Thank you. Hopefully some time to rest. Yeah, this is weird that this one gets all the comments. I do have some that are real, like my Boston Terrier rescue. That's where my little dog came from. Where is he? Where? Did you lose him? Oh, he's got the big bed. He's hiding behind a table. And I've got the ones that are like the rat rescue, the hero rat shirts and stuff. Like those are real. I don't have too many that are fake like this. I really don't try to have, but they really hold up. Like this looks great. This is an old shirt that I wear all the time, and I do nothing to protect this shirt. Like absolutely nothing. Right? It's a throwaway shirt. It was super cheap when we got. That's why we got it. It was cheaper than a blank shirt. Right? But it's Old Navy, so they just last. So yeah. But you know, kind of the Chat GPT thing is dangerous because it kind of keeps you company during the day. That's bad, right? You start to be like, you can be, if you're not careful, you have this feeling like there's been someone there, a really stupid, annoying person that you hate. But nonetheless, it still kind of has that feeling, and that you can see where lonely people would start to be like, oh, it's my friend. No, it's not. It doesn't even know you're there. It has nothing. It's a bunch of stupid words strung together by a completely unintelligent word spitter outer. You know, there's there's no hard feelings, and it's not competent in any way. Luckily, doing software all day really just exposes how stupid it is. Like, the things it can't do are truly epic. Like, you're like, oh yeah, no, there is definitely no brain there. 3 ants have more brain power. But it's interesting, and it hooks into tools that I use, and that's something that I didn't expect. So that's an area that I really like. So both VS Code and JetBrains Goland that I'm now evaluating, it actually connects to ChatGPT. So ChatGPT will actually automate it for me. So I'll be like, oh, put this here, move this here, like, and it'll just do that stuff. And that stuff where it's not too much making choices, it generally gets okay. And it shows me it actually does have some non-AI guardrails that show you exactly what it's trying to do. So there's a tool that connects ChatGPT to your tooling, and that in-between tool called Obo it'll be like, do you want to review everything before we do it? You're like, yes. And so it'll be like, here's the change I'm attempting to make, continue or don't. And if you do it, then it's not ChatGPT that's actually making the change. ChatGPT tells the tool what change to make, you approve it, and then that tool makes the change. And that tool is just a few lines of code. It is not an AI. It doesn't talk to the AI. The AI doesn't know if you use it or not. It's a pure text editor automation tool. And so it 100% is accurate. Never goes in the wrong spot, never does the wrong file, never gets confused, never anything. How ChatGPT has so many problems, I have no idea. But so that's how they've solved that, is by having this interconnect that verifies either ahead of time every action, or at least logs every action, and there's a revert button. So no matter what ChatGPT does, they can destroy everything as long as you're paying attention and go, whoa, revert. And it just takes everything right back. So that stuff's interesting, and it's really interesting how much they thought of that they had to have this thing. Instead of making ChatGPT in any way have internal guardrails and listen to its own rules, they made tooling that contains it. But it works. And so it connects to these tools that I use, and that is crazy helpful. Instead of having to ask ChatGPT, what blue goes with this orange that we're working with? And seriously, this is one of those things I do because I'm colorblind. I'll be like, give me a color palette that like starts with this orange, give me a gray that goes with it, and now I want a blue and a green that are appropriately matched to this orange. ChatGPT is excellent at that. It just spits out here, this is the blue you should have, and it's always right. You're like, oh, that looks perfect, right? Little things like that. Make that wider. Actually, it can't make things wider. It has no idea how to make things narrower or wider. That is an area it just dies on. But if you're like, make this lowercase, make the, only give me the words before a certain point, that kind of stuff it's really good at. Simple, stupid stuff that takes you a long time to write because you don't do it very often. man, I got to look up how to tell it to take all the words before the first period. I don't know how to do, like, obviously I can do that, but that doesn't take any real thought process. It's just remembering the syntax in the situation, which I hate. But yeah, MS, I'm hoping that we're going to have, I've been hoping this for years, hoping we're going to have vlog shirts with the cool beard logo on them eventually available. So before you go get Old Navy shirts with no particular thing, you can get the Big Skies over Nicaragua shirts. That's what I should do, Big Sky Nicaragua, and have like a, of course we don't really have such big skies here. What we kind of do is you head up to Chinandega, then you get big skies. That's, I'm not quite sure how you end up with big skies like Montana. It's like wide valleys or something really creates that. I'm never quite sure how you recreate that effect. I've definitely been places, and I know, like Montana, like I've been to Montana, right? The sky's really big. It's true. It's also really big in Texas. And it's that whole area, and part of it is they're relatively flat, but they're not completely flat. You got to have something in the distance that kind of creates the other side to give you the feeling of the big sky, and you have to be elevated slightly. But you can't be in like mountains, and then you lose it, or you don't think of it that way. It's like humans only perceive the sky as really big under certain conditions, and I'm never 100% sure how they're recreated. But in countries like Nicaragua, we generally don't have the big skies, and partially it's because of jungles and nearby trees that provide a lot of cover, and partially it's that we don't tend to live on the mountaintops, but there's mountaintops not that far away. It's a lot of different things that kind of come together to make all of that work or not work. So yeah, but Montana definitely has that big sky effect, and it's interesting that it works that way. I clicked away and lost everybody. Where are you? Where are you? We have like, what? Oh, there we go. You guys are very quiet this week. I gotta get my dad on here talking. Dad, what's going on? How's things in Dadland? It is July. Oh my gosh, it's tomorrow is the 4th of July. Oh my gosh. We don't really celebrate that here, so not thinking about it. We celebrate the 7th of July around here, so I've got a big event. Luke's not on yet, but some of us are going to march the hill on the 7th up to the fortress, and that's like a huge event here. So that's in just 4 days. I think it's Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, it's got to be Monday. And we're going to march up the hill, hopefully not have heart attacks, meet some people, shake some hands, take some selfies. It's a cool march, and obviously super important historic event and celebration, and very meaningful. And so it's really cool to be doing it, but it is quite a walk. Andrew says, is there any other way to use both a U.S. phone number and a local Nicaragua phone number on an iPhone without using both business and regular WhatsApp apps? I don't. So this is one that always confuses me. I have one WhatsApp. I never need another WhatsApp. And people ask me this from time to time. So the challenge I have, Andrew, is I literally don't know what's causing you to have the need for two WhatsApps. WhatsApp's not supposed to work that way. So the number of numbers, so I have 2 numbers on my iPhone and 1 WhatsApp, and everything works. I'd need more information as to what's breaking to know how to fix it, because if you just, and this is all I ever did, right? I had a US number, I had WhatsApp, had it for years. I added my Nicaragua number to my phone. Everything just works. So if you're not doing that, I need to know what it is you're doing and what the break is to have some kind of guess as to what it is we would need to do to fix it or work around it or whatever. I suspect that people have some problem where they're trying to add phone numbers to WhatsApp, which makes no sense. That's not how WhatsApp works. And so it may be that people are misusing WhatsApp and not understanding it. So maybe that's what's going on. But the numbers on your phone do not directly interfere with WhatsApp. It may be the case if you remove numbers from your phone that you got WhatsApp under that you have a problem. But most people never do that. Most people keep the number that they have WhatsApp on. So, not sure how much delay you guys have. I'm watching the screen, and already it seems like there's a massive delay between what I'm doing and what's on the monitor. Oh, Andrew says, oh, okay, so it's not that much of a delay. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's no evidence that I have to suggest that it won't work. Okay. I have just never heard you say before specifically that it does work. I just saw YouTube, maybe false information. I have definitely spoken to people who have done things and broken their WhatsApp. But I'm pretty sure in those situations that it's always involving this. So there's a lot of things like this in life where people are sure something's going to be hard and complicated, and instead of doing the easy, obvious thing, they do something really hard and non-intuitive and end up breaking whatever it is. Often this is with technology, but not 100% of the time. And then when they report things, they'll be like, well, I did this thing and it didn't work. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, that wouldn't work. But that's also a very weird thing to have done. And for example, I think people are adding a number and then going, okay, now I have to put this number on WhatsApp. And it's like, why? Why would you put that number on WhatsApp? WhatsApp is not a number-based system. It requires a number for authentication, but your identity is not that number. Your identity is your ID in WhatsApp, and you share it via QR code or whatever. There is a case where you can share it by number. That is true, but just use your US number. Those are not phone calls. The fact that you have a identifiable number is separate from the fact that it's a phone number, and once it's in WhatsApp, it doesn't have a nationality. It's just an ID. And so that may be the underlying problem that people have. And you can kind of see it that in the US, as an example, people didn't jump to modern communications. They went through this weird layer of like texting, SMS texting, which was weird. The reason it's weird is not because they did it. It's because they did it after modern technology already existed and we had already moved past anything like that. And then they went back to it. It was this unbelievable hipster thing. It was like the hipsters and the grandparents got together 20 years ago and were like, we're never going to be secure. We are never going to be efficient. We hate the idea that you would expect us to be efficient or secure, and intentionally went through this really inefficient, painful process to use this antiquated paging technology to chat inefficiently and insecurely and unreliably with each other. If Brian's on, one time he and I did a test. We were sitting together in a bar. This is quite some time ago. We were in a bar in Dallas, and I was on Verizon and he was on AT&T, I want to say. And we were both sitting there with devices. We both had internet. We were sending emails back and forth. We had all kinds of communications, and we sent a text message between us. And while emails would go between us in a couple seconds, and if anything went wrong with the email, we would get a delivery error. If we sent text to each other, it would take up to 3 hours. And if anything went wrong, it never told us. We just assumed that the other person got it, and you would just never know. So if you're from a place that has done texting, a lot of people text, and that does use the phone number, and it actually uses the phone number network. And if hold on. And if you start using these newer technologies, they layered on top of it. So both Google and Apple created these things that are trying to trick people who refuse to use modern secure communications that are neutral, like WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, and Matrix, and instead are like, no, pretend you're still texting, but we're going to grab it and put it onto a separate network and do really confusing things, but depend on that number. And so I think that confused a lot of people. And then when they went to something that was actually modern, like WhatsApp, they've been lied to and misled so much in certain markets that they just assume that being lied to and misled and misinformation is means something, and then they get confused and end up on it. And so I think that is kind of the underlying why that may end up happening, when in reality you have a phone, right? I pick up my phone. I've had WhatsApp on my US number for forever. And wherever I go with any other number, it doesn't matter because it's just internet access. WhatsApp doesn't know that you have different numbers. It doesn't interact with the phone number. So it only interacts with the fact that you have internet access until you need to send a code to re-authenticate WhatsApp. That's the only time that it works with a number. So whether you're on Wi-Fi or Nicaraguan 5G or Guatemalan 5G or Chilean 5G, it doesn't care. It's just on the internet. So those phone numbers are misleading. And that's, it's amazing how often that's something that coming from the United States, people in other countries are used to the concept of the internet on phones, and Americans are still like, no, I primarily use my phone to interact with a legacy phone environment that most of the world doesn't have. That really does create a very different impression of what it is, because in most ways, it's actually just a computer on the internet. And in most of the world, that's all it is. But in the US, it's got this dual behavior where it's also this device on this really old government telephone network. Renee says, hey, Scott, so if someone shows planning to Airbnb, Matagalpa, Leon, look for long-term rental, 4 suitcases, how to transport. If someone shows planning to... Oh, if someone shows up and they're planning to Airbnb. I got you. Long-term rental, 4 suitcases, how do you transport them? 4 suitcases is not bad. That would be, I mean, if you need to do it on the bus, sorry, I have an itchy ear tonight. If you need to do it on the bus, you can. You'll have to pay extra for luggage on the small buses. They may put your stuff on the roof on the chicken bus. I hate that stuff. If I was doing 4 suitcases, private taxi's not that bad. I'd probably pay for space on the bus. But most people would do a private taxi. Going to Leon, you're probably looking at, I mean, if it's just 1 or 2 people, right? Even if it's, well, if it's just me and my wife, we could fit 4 suitcases in pretty much any taxi without a problem. 2 in the trunk, 2 in the back seat, 1 of us in the front, 1 of us in the back, or some other, but you could fit all those suitcases in a normal taxi without a problem. Now, if you got 3 people, maybe that's tight, but let me tell you, we've done it with us and our kids. We've done it with 4 people, 4 suitcases, and you just put them between people in the back. Like, you figure it out. But if, normal taxi going out to Leon will be about $80. With all that, not a big deal. But you could do it on the Interlocale as well. They do have luggage space in the back, so you just pay a little bit extra. In most cases, you may have to wait for an extra bus. Like the one you're going on may not have extra space, so you may want to be first in the line for the next one, and then they put your luggage in. I always carry some of my luggage on my lap, and then if I have more, it would go behind. That keeps it down a little bit. But it's up to you. If you want to spend the money, it's going to cost you with luggage easily $8 to $10 on the bus. That's only 10% of $80 to go out, but there is something nice about not having to have a taxi on either end. And if you think about it, it's going to cost you $8 to $10 to get to the bus station. It's going to take you at least $5 to get from the gas station in Leon to wherever your Airbnb is. You add it all together, it's still nowhere near the cost of that $80 taxi, but it's a bigger percentage of it, and it's more convenient to just have the taxi. Then they pick you up wherever you are and take you wherever you need to go directly, and you've got some flexibility in time, and you can do it at night, which the buses don't run at night, and so forth. So those are pretty much the options. Matagalpa's a little bit farther, so it's just going to be the same thing, but a little bit more expensive. If I was going to Matagalpa, I would be from Managua, I might be okay. I would definitely be less likely to take the bus because it's less direct, more time, and the difference in money for a taxi is like maybe $10. So if I'm going to Leon, partially because I live here, so I'm very comfortable taking the buses here, I would basically never take a taxi unless it's the middle of the night. And even then, a $30 hotel room, way cheaper than a taxi. But if I was going to go to Matagalpa, it's just enough farther, enough more complicated that I'd be more likely to take a taxi directly there. It might just be me. LG Schwartz. Hey, Scott, I'm going to need to go back to the U.S. to renew my driver's license in a couple of months. What is the risk of having my new driver's license sent to Nicaragua by a courier such as DHL? Well, first of all, you never, ever, ever use an American or European carrier to Nicaragua. then the chances of it arriving approach zero, and your cost is going to be astronomical. This is a general rule of places like Nicaragua, not just Nicaragua, but places like Nicaragua. Shipping companies like that are, really good at major markets where they have huge infrastructure. In markets like Nicaragua, Cuba, Bolivia, small markets where there's very little shipping, those companies, you might as well have any random 18-year-old kid with your driver's license in your pocket show up with no money, no clue, and no information, no resources, and no working phone, and they just go, I got this card for somebody, what should I do? And the chances it's going to get to you are zero. Not a way to go. So what you use for any shipping to Nicaragua is a Nicaraguan shipper, because the thing here is not the shipping, that's easy. It's dealing with aduana, and getting things through aduana is easy for the Nicaraguan shippers. I use Envio's Fast Track that we talk about a bit on the show. And last time, my first time ever there, I walked into the office and everyone stood up and they're like, "You're Scott Allen Miller." I'm like, oh boy. But apparently I talk about them and a lot of you use them, and so they know exactly who I am. And I had never been to the office before. I just went to pick up a battery for my wife, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, it's you." So it's funny. But I do text them all the time. So, but that'll be cheap and reliable. Like, I can't imagine a situation where your driver's license wouldn't get here. Mine is coming that way right now, so that's what I would do. But do not use an American shipper, because they don't have the first clue how to get your driver's license to you. They will accept it in the U.S. and just be like, "Well, we'll figure it out now." No, they won't. No chance. Tim says, my wife renewed her driver's license on the last trip back, but it didn't come in the mail till after we left. We will get it the next time. Oh, that sucks. Courtney Exozemo, is it pretty pricey to rent an Airbnb for a month in Nicaragua? I wouldn't call it pricey. I know every house will be priced differently, definitely. But is there typically deals when you rent for 30 days? I've never used Airbnb before. So yes, typically anywhere, you're going to get deals if you go for a month on Airbnb. That became common enough that Airbnb actually made like, do you want a month kind of like pricing things, which any given place might be like, we're not giving you a deal, but almost certainly somebody will. So, shop around a little bit, but just you can message on Airbnb. So I actually like Airbnb quite a bit. When I'm traveling a lot of places, I use Airbnb. It depends. If I'm like flying in, I got one night, I'm in a hotel. But if I'm like staying for any amount of time, like I was in Bolivia, this is a little while ago, a little over a year ago. I was there for a couple weeks. I was like, I'm not staying in a hotel. Like, I didn't stay in a hotel at all. I did 100% Airbnb. Normally, I do hotels my first nights or leaving from the airport. But because I have offices there, my people pick me up. So, like, so chill. Like, I'm just going to, like, they know where my Airbnb is. It's easy. So if you're going to be staying in an Airbnb, I like it because it's every Airbnb is different, but I like it because I get to pick a neighborhood. Like when I was in Cochabamba, I got to stay in Carucaru, which is a really cool neighborhood. If I was going to buy in Cochabamba, that's probably where I'd want to buy, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so getting to stay in a normal apartment in that neighborhood with the people who are in the apartments next door actually live there, like that was a cool experience. And you don't get that too much from a hotel. So I really appreciated that perspective and being able to see what a real apartment was like. And then I could be like, well, how much would an apartment like this cost? Right. And talk to some locals, because one of my employees actually owns several of those apartment buildings in the city. And so it's like, oh, this is an apartment I could have. Like, what would this cost? Right. And so I like that because for me, a bunch of the fun of going to a new place is experiencing what life would be like there. Right. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so with Airbnb, you really can negotiate. So reach out to someone and be like, look, I'm looking to stay for a month, and they don't have to do cleaning every day and stuff. So they're generally pretty happy to have you there for a month. So in most cases, you will get a pretty good deal. Not always, but most. Vince is here. Hello. Edwin says, hi, Scott. What a terrible day the world had as it lost a lot of people. First, Portuguese soccer star Diego Jota and his brother Andre Silva died together in a car crash. That's very sad. In northern Spain when going to catch a ferry to return to the UK. As always, the lesson there is don't return to the UK. Edwin says, and two, a 61-year-old retired goalkeeper passed away due to natural causes, possibly. And yet a young moto driver also died when on a competition in free practice in France. Wow. I don't follow sports or the news too much. I hadn't heard about any of that, but Renee says, I looked at NVOs to get stuff to them. They use DHL. So I don't know what that means. NVO's Fast Track does not ship to them. You ship to them. And they're in the United States, so you can do whatever you want to get to them. Generally, you don't use DHL in the United States, but they don't use anything. You ship to them, and then they ship. Are you saying that they use DHL to get to them in Managua? To get stuff to them, they use DHL. They might use point-to-point. That seems weird, because DHL costs way more than NVOs does. So, like, how does that work? And how did you find out they use DHL? Interesting. And does DHL do maritime shipping like that? I have no idea. I know DHL does have an office in Granada, but I've never heard of anyone actually being able to get anything from DHL. It's always a huge risk. Every time I deal with anyone who ships anything to another country using any of those services, the stuff never arrives. It's always, or we actually got lucky. Someone shipped, I think it was UPS to Nicaragua, and we're a laptop, and we're like, oh my gosh, are you serious? On us to get to Envios. Something's wrong, Renee. I use Envios all the time. I've never used DHL. Nothing wrong with DHL in a DHL market. Just that has never come up. And I use them all the time. And they ship, and then these vendors, if you ship Envios Fast Track, they just give you a fee, and you just pay the fee. But if you ship anyone else, you ship like UPS or FedEx, when it arrives here, suddenly there's huge fees that the person you're shipping to has to pay, which is very different than with other things where you just agree to a price, and that is the price. That's the price of it arriving, not the price to get it to where you find out about the price. So all those UPS, DHL, as far as I know, all of them do. The majority of the price is after receipt, and it's completely a surprise. But if I was to ship the same thing, Envios, that they shipped like UPS, I think he had to pay like $100, something like that, to get it, and our price to ship it would have been something like $4. And it was, someone paid hundreds of dollars to ship it to him, and then he had to pay hundreds of dollars in ransom to pick it up. And for us, shipping the same thing would have been like $4, and that was the entire price. In US, how do you get stuff from my house? In US, how do you get stuff from my house on its way? I mean, any way you want. So yeah, you can use DHL, but that's not. How do you explain that? Envios doesn't handle stuff from you to them, right? You do that. You can just stop by and hand it to them, which sometimes I do because I have an office in Miami, and they can just stop by and literally hand it to them. So nothing's needed. So it's kind of like if I have a house in the U.S. and you have stuff and you want to get it to me, you say, how do I get this to you? Well, you can stop by my house. You can send it in the mail. Don't, but you can. You can use UPS. You can use FedEx. You can use DHL. You can hire a kid next door to ride it over across town on a bicycle. All those things are just ways to get to the service you want to use, but you can just stop in and hand it to them as well. There's no, and like if you're receiving things, right, from someone, they ship it, you don't ship it. So how you get it to Envios is completely up to you. Anything that's legal and functions in the US, you're welcome to use, of course. They are the shipper after that point, right? So like if I'm ordering stuff from Amazon, Amazon just hands it to them. It never goes through any shipper at all unless you consider Amazon themselves a shipper, which they are, I understand. Or if it's just equipment coming from my office, they'll just stop by and give it to them, whatever. But that's... DHL is not involved unless you are using DHL and then Envios is stuck receiving from them. Edwin says, the reason Diego Yota and his brother were driving to the port city of Santander, northern Spain, is to take a ferry going back to, is because the Portuguese player was in Spain for lung surgery. I definitely would not do surgery in the UK, that's for sure. Edwin says, so he couldn't take a flight back to the UK after the surgery. Oh, that makes sense. Well, that is sad. And it says he was driving his Lamborghini Huracan supercar towards Santander to take the ferry when at 12th car crash occurred. Tire was blown out, lost control, and caught fire. He's probably driving really fast then, which not necessarily, but Lamborghinis at normal highway speed rarely have major accidents. At some point, you have to be like, super rich people and their super rich accidents. It's, you know, you don't want bad things to happen to them, but they're also having a fun life and deciding what's important to them. And I have been one of those people who drove really fast in my youth. And it was stupid, and I took my chances, but I also didn't drive in situations where I would very likely blow out a tire and have an accident. I'm looking to see what... his tire burst while overtaking and then left the road and caught fire. Authorities identified the remains based on documents recovered at the scene of the accident, as well as the license plate. That's some serious accident. They are not saying how fast they were going, but that sounds like they were going really, really fast, because cars don't generally spin out of control at normal speeds, especially with low profile tires like that. And like a Lamborghini, they're pretty reliable, and designed to go through some pretty serious crashes under normal circumstances. So it's pretty likely that he was at fault. Seeing if anyone's saying what speed they must have been going. The road they were on is very dangerous and notorious for accidents. It's a big highway, though. Not a place you would expect to be too bad. Also, I'm a little outraged after realizing until July 5th, 2026, I will not get a driver's license, turning 20 tomorrow, due to National Police new regulations to avoid minors in the wheel causing a mess. What? Are they moving the driving age up to 21? By the way, happy birthday, preemptively. My daughter will be very excited if that is true. She does not want to drive. There's an investigation to see whether speed was a factor in the accident. You think? Wow, it moved up to 21. My daughter will be happy. I'm going to send that to my wife. If I can find her. And I just did a video, right, about whether we could have no cars in Nicaragua. And I think that is perfect timing as they lower the speeds, or, you know, maybe they raise them again, who knows. But they're definitely figuring out how to make the roads safer and make it less attractive to driving and put fewer drivers on the road. This is what I want to see, honestly, is, you know, not necessarily keeping younger drivers off the road, although there is real value to that, but just keeping people off the road. Right, fewer drivers overall. Force, yeah. Well, my daughters have no interest in driving. They don't plan on ever getting a license, on licenses, either of them. But everything we can do to make there be no cars and make everything be public transportation and what am I trying to say? Driverless taxis when those finally come out. Like there's so many things that we're in a position now as a society to do away with cities full of parked cars and traffic jams and unsafe conditions. There's so many things that we can do now. And Nicaragua's in such a good position to do this. I would be so excited if they really put in the trains, take out the cars, get the traffic down. This could be such, I mean, it's a beautiful country. This could be such a more beautiful country that is so safe. And we have the capability of doing it and no incentive not to. That's the biggest thing. Places like the US, there's so much money. If you tried not to do it, say they would just execute you. Like for real. If you really had any shot at getting cars off the road, you're dead. 100%, everyone knows it. You cannot safely do that. In Nicaragua, there's no one who really cares. Yeah, Casa Pellis would like to sell more cars. But first of all, they're going to sell what cars are left. So they're not getting nothing. And they have lots of time to adapt into other things and find other ways to make their money. They're not going to freak out. Right. Are they going to be annoyed? Yeah, but mostly smaller players like Auto, Nika, or whatever, they're going to leave the market. And Casa Pellis will be left with a similar share for a really long time, right? It'll take decades to phase out, even if they start doing stuff today. And, you know, we don't have these big players bringing in fuel oil and stuff that are going to be upset about it. Like, we're in the perfect position to, you know, the thing that sucks is when some people can drive and some people can't. That sucks. When it's nobody can drive, life is so much better. And when you go places where nobody drives, which is very few, it's heaven. Right, Ciudad Cajala and Lago de Atitlan in Guatemala, where they're carless. Oh my gosh, it's so heavily desired to live there. People will pay anything, and people don't think about what makes it a utopia. No cars is definitely a big piece of it. Right, every inch of everywhere you go has no cars. It's amazing. It's safe. You can let your kids play in the street. You know, no one can abduct your kids and get very far because the cops still have cars. Right. So that's important. Normal people, like, how far are you going to get? Well, I'm going to abduct this kid and jump on a bus. No, you're not. That's certain death, right? Those people on that bus are going to beat the living crap out of you and then give you to the police at the other side. That's like when we lived in Cañar in España. We lived on a mountaintop, and it was 27 switchbacks between us and a single point that went onto the highway in southern Spain. And it was like, people will be like, oh, you let your kids play in the street? What if someone grabs them? And we're like, it takes 30 minutes to get down that mountain. 30 minutes. Do you have any idea how close the police are to the bottom of that mountain? The police have time to make it halfway up the mountain and catch you on the switchbacks, but they don't have to. They just put a car at the bottom of the road, and there ain't nothing you're doing, right? There's nowhere to go. If you vary off that road, you're going to go nose first down a rocky ravine. Like, that's it. You know, so that kind of stuff, it's amazing how much safety that actually provides. Not that those are things we worry about outside the U.S. And even in the U.S., it's a fake fear, right? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, they're going to abduct your kids. That was a fake made-up thing in the 80s, but everybody's still scared of it, right? But it's not really a thing. But like those places in Guatemala, they're so outrageously safe, and people really want to be there. And it's one of the things that when you're in Disney World, I always use that as an example, but one of the things that people just love about Disney World, they can't put their finger on it, but it's you can go everywhere and there's no cars. But there is great public transportation. There's trams and there's little buses and there's skyways and there's monorails and trains and, you know, boats, ferries all over the place. And Nicaragua could get some of that back, right? What if we had the ferries that go from Managua to Momotumbo to San Francisco? Is it San Francisco? I think so. And what if we had Granada to San Carlos to Moyagalpa to San Jorge running much faster? Like, there's so many places like, oh my gosh, I don't even have to get on a bus. Like, there's something about buses that make everybody go, even though the buses here are quite nice. But imagine if you got rid of the buses and even went with... I'm getting messages in 2 different orders. That's weird. I've never had that happen before. I'm looking at... I am looking into random things. But if you could take ferries or trains or cable cars, my gosh, people are just like, let's do that, right? Renee says, with Envios, must you go to Managua to pick up items? So, as with everything, it's semantics. If you want it to be Envios, so Envios only handles Miami to Managua. But if you want to get it to your house, you just have them send it. So then they use Cargo Trans or whatever service you want. So depending on what we're doing, either we'll stop by, because it's just in Las Colinas, so it's easy to just stop by and pick it up. So we'll do that quite often. If we don't feel like it, I just send them a note and say, I'm lazy, right? Can you get it to my house? And they'll be like, fast, slow, what do you want? And I'll be like, Cargo Trans right to my house, please. And then they'll just shows up at my door. So it just depends what you want to do. But they're not duplicating the things we already have in country. They're just leveraging what we already have. My dad says, did I hear you call for a response from Daddyland? But keep it in mind, my world of elderly people. Not too much to talk about. My highlight today is that I just ordered a big Nicaraguan map for the office. Oh my gosh, I want a big Nicaraguan map for the office. I've been wanting one of those. I really want a big topographical. That'd be really cool. That has all the different departamentos in different colors. That'd be cool. But that's awesome. See, I get my love of maps from my dad. Which I can't figure out how my daughters got no love of maps from me. They definitely got their maps. What are those from their mom? She hates reading maps. Emma says, I'd like to live in the utopia you're describing. Concerning safety, there are no school shootings or mass shootings in Nicaragua like in the U.S. I hope the answer is no. I'm pretty confident. I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm pretty confident there has never been a school shooting or a mass shooting in Nicaragua. There have been shootings, of course. Like, people have been shot, but like kids being shot in Nicaragua, that is such not a thing. It is a very different world. And so I did a video last week talking about hope and how, because I was talking to someone about Nicaragua, and I was so like, what is it that really makes it different? And this feeling of hope really is a major factor. Like, you don't really think about it until you're doing it for a while, and you go back and forth, and you're like, why do people feel so different in Nicaragua? And you're like, they have this whole feeling of like, maybe there's a future, maybe there's something to look forward to. And Americans just feel, so much of the Western world, not the U.S. specifically, is so like, everything's so terrible, we're just giving up. And because of that, it's like this societal feeling that you get. Like, there is no tomorrow. And of course, if you say, is there a tomorrow? People are like, well, yeah. But the emotional state is kind of like there isn't. Like, the future, when I was growing up, the future was unknown. There's the cone of uncertainty. But there was a future. And it may be a future that didn't have Social Security. But it was definitely a future that we didn't really worry about. Will the U.S. still be the U.S.? Now, yeah, pretty much. We weren't even concerned about that breaking up. Like, the U.S. not be the U.S. in our lifetime? What are you talking about? That has fallen apart super fast compared to what we would have imagined, but even that hasn't actually happened yet. But, like, my kids, they're like, the U.S. as a country when we're adults? Like, are you kidding? Is that even on the table? And kids today are like, we're really worried about, like, the sky falling. We're worried about like really crazy stuff. Now, we did have the Cold War. We did have this very serious feeling that something terrible could happen. And that's back again in a way that I don't think it was back then. I think it's so much more aggravated today. Now, we did grow up with nuclear disasters, and my dad's here, so I remember when my dad was at work. I feel like I was 10. I know we were in the new house. And growing up in the United States, there's probably lots of places, and almost all of you likely remember hearing that this is a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test. Had this been an actual disaster, this message would be followed by instructions, blah, blah, blah. Right? And we grew up with that all the time. And drills at school, what to do when you see the flash of light, and you hear what to do when you hear the air raid sirens and all that kind of stuff. And this real fear. Now, I grew up in the country. So this fear that we were going to be actually nuked was low. It was like, but there could be a nuke really far away, and we should be prepared. So it wasn't like we're going to die suddenly. That wasn't really the feeling. But I remember, because we grew up in Western New York, and there was Ginna nuclear power plant not that far from where we lived, I was after school, I was home, I was watching Leave It to Beaver or whatever, and it went, this is not a test. Ginna nuclear power plant is going to melt down. We are beginning the evacuations of, and they just started listing the counties. And Dad, who's on here and obviously survived, was so close to ground zero that he was in the there's no reason to bother evacuating zone, right? Like absolutely terrible. And we lived far enough away that we were the very first house. Like if you went to the back of our property and went to the house on the backside of our land, which we had, a farm, so it was not like 50 feet away. That house was under evacuation. We were not. That's how close we were. We were definitely under you might want to consider going, but you're not in the official evacuation zone because they did it by county. But that was, right, nuclear disasters were real. And I know people who drove into the 3 Mile Island nuclear disaster for work reasons when that happened, right? They're like, everybody else is fleeing. This is the time to go to work, right? You just take your chances. Like, those are crazy times. And we don't really feel the same. Like, we're not like, nuclear power plant's going to go down any minute, right? Not even Indian River is that scary in the Hudson. But in general, right, we were generally hopeful about the future growing up in the U.S. It just seemed like the world was open in front of us, and we had options and all kinds of things. And Nicaragua still feels that way, more or less like we did when I was as a kid. Less certainty, I think, for sure, but there's a certain amount of this is what life will be like, and then it's good. And Americans just feel like they don't have that, by and large. But then on the flip side, the thing that, what do they have in the United States? And the thing that having lived abroad, that I use to define to people what American culture is like more than any other thing. If there's one thing that defines Americanism, it is fear. Fear of everything. Americans are afraid of their government, sure, but they're afraid of the police. They're afraid of the not government. Literally, they're just afraid of things that aren't the government, which is super weird because they're also afraid of the government. They're just afraid. They're afraid of neighbors. They're afraid of other political parties. They're afraid of their own political party. They're not discriminatory. They're afraid of other races. They're afraid of their own race. Again, it's not super discriminatory. They're just afraid of everything. They're afraid of the country. They're afraid of cities. They're afraid of big vehicles. They're afraid of small vehicles. They're afraid of fuel-efficient vehicles. They're afraid of the environmental disaster of not small vehicles. It doesn't matter what it is. They're afraid of it in both directions. Everything is fear. There's a fear that everything's going to kill you, everything's going to hurt you, everyone's out to get you. And to some degree, to some amount that's true. Like, the government isn't very trustworthy, sure. But are they out to set the whole country on fire? No, they're not. Right? There's no rhyme or reason, and the fear has created so much irrationality that conversations that involve this level of fear are so weird. People will be like, I don't trust the government at all. I'm like, okay, well, here's how you do things, to protect yourself from the government having insight and control to you. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to do those things. I'm only going to do things that hand all control to the government because I don't trust all these other people. I don't trust businesses. I don't trust individuals. I don't trust people that don't work for big businesses. I don't trust people that don't work for the government. And you're like, what? Okay, so the real problem is you don't trust and you don't have any faith, and there's just fear. And I understand that it's a fearful place, and when everybody's out to get you, but they're not all out to get you. That's the thing. But people start reacting that way, and so you come up with things that are like, hey, we could have private healthcare and have the government not involved. And it's like, no way, I would never trust someone without government oversight. You're like, okay, then we should have the governments oversee the hospitals. Oh my gosh, you can't trust the governments, they're completely corrupt. okay, do you understand that you've now created a situation where the only thing we can do is not have hospitals? Like, what do you want, right? Like, this doesn't work. You can't have zero faith. And so people will often use this circular logic of, I trust the government, so I make them oversee things, but I don't trust the government, so I make those things be private companies that the government oversees. And so and what they end up with so often is society pushing for corrupt private companies that have control of the government, so that there's a government agency that can do anything at once, but has a private company involved, so you have none of the controls and oversight that a true government agency would have. And then those agencies use the problems that creates to be self-fulfilling, right? Someone will say, well, clearly we can't trust the government, so they use that to perpetuate this problem. And you're like, well, you never tested if the government could be overseen. You never tested if public workers could do a good job. I'm not saying they would, but you're not giving them the chance. You've created a guaranteed bad, you as society have created a guaranteed bad situation, and then use that as an excuse to trust none of the players, even though none of the players had a chance to prove themselves, and none of them are being held accountable. None of them have a responsibility because you put together this system that is guaranteed not to work, no matter who's involved. So that is how I sum up America, and it's how you explain it to non-Americans, because people will be like, "But America has so many resources and it has all these great things," and you're like, "Yeah, but everybody's afraid of everything. It doesn't matter how much you have. You're scared all the time. You don't want to go outside. You're afraid of your kids being outside. You're afraid of being sued for anything. And even if you're doing the best possible thing, it doesn't matter. If someone perceives it as being bad, you're in trouble." And so it's crazy. You absolutely crazy. And that fear just drives irrationality. So no, Nicaragua does not have those shootings, does not have the fear of kids, does not have the fear of school. Imagine living in a place where the thing you have to be afraid of is your kids playing in traffic because everyone is so not fearful that they just play in front of moving cars all the time. That's the real problem. I watched this reel on Instagram the other day. This girl, right? Everyone knows street racing. There's always, two cars. They're revving up. They're going to drag. And a girl goes out. She takes off her scarf and she waves her scarf. And the two cars go, and like, boom, right? And you stand right there where you wave the scarf because the cars are on either side of you. You're standing basically between the headlights. So they couldn't, if they turn the wheel all the way, they're going to, one way or another, they can't hit you. And you stand a little bit in front of them, but they can't really turn that tight. I mean, they'd really have to work at it. It's very safe. And this girl waved her flag and jumped because she didn't want to be in the middle. She wanted to get off to the side. And so got hit instantly by this car. Now, she was okay. The person saw her jump and he hit the brakes. But the sound of her bouncing off that hood. And you're like, she literally just dove into the front of a racing car. Like, that's what every single Nicaraguan is like. If your kids grow up here, they will somehow learn that cars are soft and mushy and they're supermen and they can just stand out and stop traffic at any time, at any speed, even in total darkness where there's no possibility of seeing them. They'll just walk out in front of your car. There's so little fear. I wish Nicaraguans were a little bit more fearful, just the tiniest bit. Rene says, so you pick up at Envios and bypass aduana. So yes, the purpose of all of these services is to get things from the United States into Nicaragua. Aduana would still be outside Nicaragua. They get them inside Nicaragua. They're handling aduana is the purpose of these services. Some of them have built-in, we send it directly to your house. Some of them are located in other cities. So there's some like here in Leon, there's somebody, I've never used them, but there's somebody here. And you can get services all the way to Leon instead of Managua. And then all of them have access to ways to ship things inside the country. Shipping around Nicaragua is super easy. Very quick, very cheap. We have things like cargo trans and private couriers that are so easy to use, like it's fantastic. Not that the U.S. doesn't, right? The U.S. has like Amazon shipping and FedEx, and they're not that expensive and work really well. Here it's just so cheap, and like the idea that you're in Nicaragua and things will just come to your door is just, it's mind-blowing sometimes. Dark Doll says, do you have you experienced any big earthquakes in Nicaragua? I don't know, is a 7.9 big? I have an earthquake phobia since that damn Superman movie. No, you should watch San Andreas. That's the one to watch. Yeah, we're an earthquake country, so they are constant. We get alerts nearly every day. We'll go sometimes for a while without any. Right now, actually, we've had very few. In 2022, when we were living in La Barrio, which is nearby, we had a 7.9. Like, that was, holy cow. It was quite far away, and it shook everything. Everyone was calling, everyone they knew in the country. Are you okay? Are you okay? Did you feel, oh my gosh, right? Like, that was every wall going, the roof is moving, your furniture is moving, everything shaking, the sound of the earth. You know, you're like, blah, right? You have these unbelievable, that's the two things we hear here that you don't hear most places. Now, that being said, I grew up in Western New York. Having lived in Western New York, I am aware of the sound of earthquakes. But our earthquakes were like, I don't know, a 3.5 maybe. Maybe it was a 4. And I remember once I was alone at my dad's house on the farm, and once I was with my dad, and I remember being like, boy, that's such a weird thing. And I'm like, is that an earthquake? Is that what that's like? It's like the whole world has like a kind of sound to it. And like every little thing moves, and you're like, something's wrong. Because like my window shouldn't be moving. Right? My window never moves. That seems odd. Earthquake. Right? But it's like half a millimeter. It's just enough for you to perceive it that something's kind of wrong. Because normally those things are so solid in your vision. And then it's like they're soft just a little bit. You're like, huh. But in Nicaragua, when you get these, I mean, you're talking orders of magnitude more movement than those in Western New York. And everything moves, and the sound is loud. And you're like, okay, so that sounds like a train, but we don't have any trains. That's got to be the earth. The earth is the train, and we're just riding it wherever it wants to go. And everything shakes. And the first time it happened to me, it was only maybe a 5. I was sitting at my desk, and the wall visibly was going back and forth behind my desk. The floor was going different places than the wall. And I'm just like, okay, that's an earthquake, right? And we had only been here like a month. But then the big one that we had in La Barrio, that was, my kids were like, boom, they were under their beds in seconds. They know that was so fast. They're like, you have to just go to the first thing. So you just roll and roll back. So, you know, you do a little bit of training like that. If anybody's wondering, that's to protect you from a falling roof. If you can, you get to a door frame, but it's not really a big deal. It's not like a tornado. You only have to make sure that the roof is not going to crush you, and normally a bed is going to protect you because our roofs are not actually that heavy under normal circumstances. So you're worried about just things falling. So like a tile falling from the roof. If it just hits you in the head, it's really easy to do a lot of damage because your head's up top and exposed. But if you're just underneath a mattress, it takes a lot of stuff falling to hit you hard enough to actually do any kind of real damage. So that's generally the thing you do. And I've never seen a roof come down, right, in a house from an earthquake, but that's the one precaution you take. Or if you're near a door, just walk outside. But earthquakes really are generally not scary here, but we get major earthquakes. The other thing that we hear, of course, is volcanoes. And I didn't hear that one until pretty recently. We had an eruption. Now, I think it was Tolika. And we kept getting news like Talika's about to go off, and then we would hear it. And we'd be like, do you hear that? And you'd step outside and you'd be like, oh, that's a nearby volcano blasting off. Like, whoa, that's pretty cool. But honestly, you just get used to that stuff here, and they're not scary at all. I mean, I'm just the anti-earthquake phobia guy, but I just find them like, what's going to happen? You know, it's not like the earth actually opens up and swallows you. Crazy, scary things don't really happen. And as long as you're not at the beach, like, you know, or in a giant building. Now, if you're in a high rise, you're in an old building where there's like big concrete beams going to come down, look, I totally understand why that's scary. But if I'm in a house made of wood, first of all, like I'm in a house here, this has been through earthquakes for the last 50 years. Most of the houses in the city have been through earthquakes for hundreds of years. They've been through so many big ones, they're not going anywhere. They are very, very tested. And even if they were to fall down, what are they going to do? It's not like the walls are just going to fall on you. You know, the ceiling, like here, the ceiling's just wood. You know, it would hurt if that came down on my head, but like, you know, it's not terrifying being under some boards as they fall. Ben Landers here. Hey, Scott, what's the name site WhatsApp for your shipping service from Miami? It's Envios Fast Track. I got to find I have to find my phone that's right here in front of me. Let me see if I can find them. I think sometimes they actually join the live stream because they have mentioned it before. See, Envios, there they are. And how do I get their WhatsApp to share on here. There they are. If you're adding them on WhatsApp, they are 505 8690 9404. Videos, fast track, Miami to Managua, Las Colinas. And you just send them a message, right? So that's the thing that really throws people off here in Nicaragua. Like, well, not Nicaraguans, but Americans dealing with Nicaragua for the first time. A lot of these businesses, it's like, so what do I do? You literally just WhatsApp them and be like, hey, I'd like to ship something from Miami. I heard about you from Scott. He's got the YouTube channel. And they'll be like, yeah, we know Scott. And you'll be like, what do I need to know? And they'll send you a little instruction sheet. Here's our address. Here's what you put on the shipping form. Here's what it cost. Here's what you say. Send us the tracking number when you get it. Right? Like, and you're like, oh, like everything's a conversation here. I'm not saying that I like that, right? I like websites and everything formal, but it's amazing how often just talking to people is easy. And once you're used to it, it gets way easy. Someone just wrote, are my lenses as rosy as the frames? Are they talking about my orange glasses? I'm not sure. Tony is here, my second live stream. Nice to be here. Hello, everyone. Hey, Tony, glad that you're here. 200 years ago, Alexis de Tocqueville suggested that the strong religious impulse in the U.S. was rooted in fear. Oh, absolutely. But it's also, so first of all, Alexis de Tocqueville is freaking awesome. So that's really cool that you quote de Tocqueville. And I have read de Tocqueville. Having studied American history, though, I think that it's not entirely accurate. Obviously, he was in the U.S. long before I was, so he has some insight that I don't have, and he was brilliant, so I understand that. But having grown up in America and studied American history and having way more time in the U.S. than de Tocqueville did, a key difference and something he may be missing is just how much the U.S. was founded by religious cults. That was the driving factor for much of the early American experience. And so much of the religious impulse may be coming from fear, but much of the fear is coming from religious impulse. So it's a chicken and egg problem. I think today, the fundamental underlying feeling of fear everywhere does drive a lot of the religious craziness that the United States experiences that other places do not. That's definitely true, and why it's such an unhealthy religious bias compared to so many other places. Not that it's that different, but it really is noticeable. So many religions in the U.S. are fake versions of their parent religion or a completely fake parent religion. It is common for people who are Baptist to refer to their religion as Christian, but it's much more closely related to Islam, of course. Even Islam recognizes it as part of Muslim religion, and of course, right, Baptist is the driving group behind the U.S. support of ISIS and their actions in the Middle East. Like, there's really tight connections and really deep support for those groups, right? For fundamentalist Islamic groups coming out of the U.S. But Americans are like, no, you can't mention that that's what it is. So there's this huge fear of just admitting what religions people practice, which is weird. And a lot of that comes from in the late 1800s, the tent revivals, right, which were obviously anti-Christian, deeply rooted in Muslim fundamentalism, right? Not real Muslim, but fundamentalism is its own religion, and deeply rooted in that to try to undermine what at the time there was a fair amount of Christian in the U.S., and a lot of that died in the late 1800s when this strong Islamic movement came in. But of course, the Masons were always very tied to Islam and very powerful in the U.S. And not to pick one religion or another as being good or bad, but like Americans have just such a weird relationship with their own religions, and this terror of admitting what religion they're practicing. Super weird. Having grown up going to like a Baptist private school, let me tell you, there was nothing resembling Christianity in that place, and everything was very much like ISIS, right? Terror groups in the Middle East are exactly what they idealized and acted like, and it was almost, they almost didn't bother to hide it. They were ready to grab AK-47s and ride around in the back of pickup trucks and make everyone wear a burqa. That was exactly what they thought, right? No alcohol, lots of drugs, scared of everything, right? Fear, fear, fear. That was the fundamental everything, right? Drove every aspect of life in those groups. And but America, if you go back and look at like what were the first colonies, well, the very first colony was just this group of awful people, and then followed closely by the Pilgrims and crazy religious cult that wanted to enslave their own children and didn't have the power to do that in Europe, so they came to the United States where they could run unchecked, absolutely horrific religious cults. And then over time, much less crazy groups moved in, but so many starting points, so many early laws, so much of the militarized threat against other colonies and things in the U.S. were based around these horrible things. It's not surprising that coming from that fear became the thing, because it was the people that everyone feared were kind of sent to the U.S. and it was like we didn't want to have to execute them or something in Europe, so they're like, you know what, we got a place for them. And as I saw recently, someone from Australia said, thank goodness we got the convicts and the Americans got the religious cults. That's hundreds of years later, Australia's like, yeah, convicts, not really all that bad. Dark Doll says, thank you. I think it, honestly, it's just a matter of getting used to it, right? I understand a true phobia, like if you're scared of spiders, rolling around in a bed of spiders is not going to make it better for you. But I think normally when people are afraid of earthquakes, it's much more that they haven't experienced them and they imagine that there's so much more to them than there is, and there just isn't, right? The ground shakes. Like what? If you really have a fear of it, don't live in a high rise, for sure. But like I think that at some point there's this, oh, wait, there's nothing bad to happen. Oh, okay. Like, what if you're sitting in the garden and the earth shakes? What do you care? It's interesting, right? Yeah, we all want to know where it's happened, how strong was it. We'll all tweet about it. Oh, I was in at 5.2, right? Because it gives you something to talk about. Call people, did you feel it? Did you hear it? But no one's scared of it. No one's worried about it. No one's like, what if there's another one? Who cares, right? It's just interesting that there's something. I find it interesting that we feel it all over the country, and Nicaraguans, because of the nature of the country, there's this like, the Coconut Telegraph. We all talk to people from all over, so all of us have friends in all these different places, and so it's really normal to have like a big earthquake and be like, hey, did you feel it in San Juan del Sur? Did you feel it in Managua? And we're all talking to each other, and that's really cool. That's this really important thing that like Americans could have, but they don't normally. I'm sure somebody does, but like if we have a big earthquake in Dallas, we don't call everyone in Houston and San Antonio and Austin and Oklahoma City and be like, hey, did you feel this? Let alone the people in like New York or Los Angeles, but I recognize those are orders of magnitude farther away. It's a different thing. But there's like no shared experience in the US. Like, oh my gosh, we had huge tornadoes in Dallas. Well, yeah, but one city away didn't have anything. They didn't even have clouds, right? It's not a shared experience. But in Nicaragua, if we have a big storm, everyone's got a big storm. If we've got an earthquake, everyone's got an earthquake. So there's this interesting thing where we all talk about it. And like if there's a major accident out on any highway, well, it kind of impacts us all. We're all aware. We all know that piece of highway. It's so different. It's like there was a major accident recently, and we were in the hospital, and they're showing pictures, and then Marcela's like, this is your house. I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's the front of your house that's on the news. And I'm like, oh, no. Everything's so connected. It's just such a small place. Vince says, never experienced earthquakes. They're really just interesting. That's about it. Cal Hewitt. Hey, Scott, finally come to Nicaragua next weekend. Very nice. 2 weeks there. And then taking Panga across Fonseca del Salvador. Can't wait. We definitely want to report on that. I almost got my kids to go on that Panga this week. I was supposed to go to Guatemala this week. They ended up having to cancel. And everyone waited. This is why we ended up canceling. They waited until the last second to do it all, and there were like no flights. And so we're all like, this is gonna suck. And I'm like, I'm just gonna take the ferry. like whatever. I will take the ferry and do it and film it, and that'll be kind of cool. And my kids were like, we do like taking ferries, and like they like adventures like that. They hate riding the bus, but they do like adventures. And so they were like, maybe we'll do this incredibly long journey because we get to do this ferry in the middle. And I'm just like, okay, I feel like you're not picturing what this is really like, but okay. But I was really excited that my kids might have gone to Guatemala with me, but then ended up that it got canceled because of the foolishness of the entire thing, trying to do a trip when there weren't any flights. Because normally, if you can schedule it, the flights to Guatemala are like, $140, and they take like 80 minutes, right? So you're like, yeah, but if you don't schedule it right, they can cost $600 and they can take 14 hours. So it's like, I will just take the bus things. But even the bus was running out of options because it was so soon. So it was like, it was just gonna be terrible. So yeah, I definitely want to hear how it is, because I want to give it a try and zip up there. I gotta find what, because the bus going up there is like $70, which is not bad at all. I think it's a little bit extra if you don't get to take, or if you do take the boat, something like that. They do not make these searches easy. Like destination, yes, I would like to go to Guatemala City. How can I get there from here? And then you select Guatemala City, and then departing from, going to. I'm going to Guatemala City. And then they make it, no, sorry, you can only go from Guatemala City. Well, that doesn't make any sense. If that's my destination, why would it be the only place I can leave from? Nicaragua. All right, start there. Jose Vega, what are you drinking? Oh, it's just Pepsi. I am not having alcohol. I am way too tired for that. Now here it says the shuttle, Leon to Antigua. And that's more or less what I want to do. All right, departing from Leon, what are my options? Yeah, Antigua is the only option. I hate that. In Guatemala. And is it gonna... Yeah, it's shuttle only. There used to be the Panga option. They've taken it away. I don't know what it is, but it's bus only. But the reverse, they still have the Panga. Red Dog. OMG, just watched a video on the Banana Burger Place in Granada. Banana Burger Place? What's the Banana Burger Place? How... Now I must know. Or do you mean plantain bun? That's common-ish. Or is it a burger made out of bananas? That actually doesn't sound good. I'm veggie, but I don't want that. Now, lentils. I like me a lentil burger, but not a banana burger. Yeah, so it's only $70. Yep, your delay is pretty bad. Your chat shows up way earlier than the vid. Strange. Yeah, it does that as it goes. Oh, Red Dog says plantain bun. Yeah, not interested. It is way too heavy. I've had it. Like, that's a Nicaragua thing, because plantains are cheaper than buns. They're available everywhere. It's, it's a general offering you can get most places, but it's just way too much plantain. Like, you're not thinking about how heavy that is, because that is a lot of plantain and it's fried. So it's a lot, right? Because normally the bun is like 100 calories, and now you're like 1,000 calories of bun replacement. Whoa. So I'm going to say when I post this. So I'm typing, I am testing the delay now. This will appear before I say it. I'm writing this and posting it. Boom, boom, boom. Now. And now. Okay, so when I went like that, that was the moment I hit it. So you can count from then, but it'll be afterwards that, okay, there's no good way to explain that because I had to anyway, that allows you to gauge how far it is. But when I watch the video, it's easily 15 minutes behind. Like, it's crazy. But mine is normally way farther behind than yours. But still, it gets really far behind at some point. But yeah, the shuttle, $70 up to Guatemala, all the way. But that's to Antigua. Then you still got to get to Guatemala City. It's kind of a pain. It was there before you said it. Well, it should have been. But see, that delay's short. But it could be, the delay can be way longer than that. Way, way longer than that. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Na 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 na. Bum, ba da 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 da. So I had energy there for a little bit. We'll see if I can keep it going. It's been an exhausting week, and today definitely an exhausting day. Just the drama of life going on. But I've got my dogs here, and my wife is on her way home. She's been in Managua for a few days. Oh, maybe that's them that just pulled in. Let me see. She was on the road home. Oh, easily that's her that I'm hearing. That should be her. It's been 2 hours. So likely she just pulled in from Managua. So my dogs are going to bark and demand to be let out of the door here in just a minute, I guarantee. Can you guys hear the insects behind me freaking out? Always an insect. They're probably like, there's plastic here. What are they doing? So I would have to count negative on your now. Yes, that is the secret. You must count the negative. Sorry, there's no good. Yep, you can hear my wife talking outside. Oh, and now the dog's upset. Hold on, gotta release the dogs. Okay, Mia. Okay. Yes, mommy's home. Mommy's home. The attack dogs have been released. Oh, they'll return. It's funny that my microphone picks people up as they're coming through the garage. Like, new movies this week. So, this is interesting. So I watched Bottle Rocket. I've never seen this movie. For those who don't know, it's a great story. So these two roommates in Texas, someone's gonna be like, yeah, we know the story. They went to University of Texas. One was from Dallas, one was from Houston, and they both studied like filmmaking or whatever, and they wrote a short movie together. And shortly after university, I guess they made like a 15-minute demo in black and white. That was honestly not very good, but good for students. And then someone gave them budget, and they actually made a real movie just 2 years later in color, full length, called Bottle Rocket. And what's amazing is a couple things. One, the movie completely takes place around my house in Dallas, and it is written by Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson. That they were roommates in college and were friends, and then were like, let's make movies together. And neither of them were anybody. And the movie Bottle Rocket is Luke Wilson, Owen Wilson, and Wes Anderson, all in their first movie. All of whom are huge stars now, absolutely massive. As actors, directors, and writers. Like, there's just so much going on in in their universe. Very, very interesting. And for all of them to be doing their first thing in this movie, this low budget movie, and it all takes place. So if you're watching it, every single thing looks like where I lived in Dallas. There's a spot where they're out on Greenway Park. That was the park I lived on. So it looks like you're sitting in my backyard. And they might have been, I don't know. And then there's a scene where they go to a country club, and they're like, the one character is like, so you don't play golf, you don't play tennis, why are you a member of a country club? And the guy's like, and it's hilarious because people have asked me that And I was a member of that country club, not just any country club, but that's actually the one I was a member of. And the table that they're filming at is a table that we sat at quite often, because this is the club that some of you know, like when I was younger. And Brian, who's on the show most weeks, I don't know if he's here this week, I haven't seen him say anything. Brian, who was down here 3 years ago, 2022, we did some traveling around Nicaragua together. He was actually my sponsor at the country club in Dallas. Many moons ago, 2010, I want to say. And had to be 2010. And so this table, and we would go there all the time, because when you're a member of the country club, like, it only makes sense if you go like 4 or 5 nights a week. So we would hang out there all the time when my kids were really little. And this one table we sat at like constantly. It's like the table I picture us sitting at when you think of the country club. And that's the one they showed. And it's James Caan and Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson sitting at this table. And I'm like, that's our table. Those are the windows that we sat at. That's where the bouncy house was. This is where we sat outside. Like it was just crazy. I mean, instantly, like, that's our country club. So like connected to the places in this movie. It's really neat to watch. And when they go to this ice house that's like 1 block away from where we used to go drink in Deep Ellum. Like, everything just super connected. So it's really neat from that perspective, and I'd never seen it. So I went and watched that movie, and that was really neat. So that was cool. It was cool to go back and watch that movie and be like, this is like the movie from where I lived, and I didn't know. That's such a big thing, and it made all these. Now there's all these Wes Anderson movies that inspired, and then I've been watching some old '80s stuff. While I'm working, I just put kind of on in the background. I've been watching 48 Hours and another 48 Hours, and really good for background while you're working, as long as I'm not being interrupted. I found Babylon 5. Never seen it. Boy, that is a low budget show. Boy, the acting is weak, but it's okay. It's an entertaining, have it on in the background, but that is very much like a couple of college students putting together a sci-fi show. I must say so. There's a reason why I didn't watch it. Like, the storylines are okay. It's done in a enjoyable format. I like that 80s, 90s chill sci-fi vibe that Star Trek inspired, but it's also like, wow, that is low budget. But I do like going back and kind of digging through these libraries of things. Tony says, your comments on U.S. Baptists are fascinating. Here in Canada, they are only 1% of the population, so the influence in the U.S. society, politics, etc. is perplexing and fascinating to me. It's a huge influence. Like, you don't realize how influential that is. Like, it's generally considered the largest religious bloc in the U.S. And it's such a weird culture. It's so not at all what you expect from the outside, and explains so much, right? It's Ben says, so I'd have to count negative. Leo says, hey, Sam, I checked the weather, and you've commented many times on how much hotter it is there. It's 86 Fahrenheit here and 78 humidity. There, it's only 76 at 83% humidity. Am I missing something? It is definitely not 76. I don't know what you're... 76? What? It is currently... at night, 28. What is that? Why can't you just tell me what it is? So it's currently 83, 82 and a half, which is not bad, but it's nighttime, right? And during the day we were 33, which is not bad, right? Like, this is the nice cool temperature for us. That's 91. So we were 91 and a half today. So Leo, where are you? That it's 86 right now? Andrew says, would it be pretty reasonable to find a simple computer desk at either Walmart? So I've never been to Walmart here. I'm not that premium. Or some other store in Managua. I'm not planning to bring the one I have because I'm thinking I can probably get, well, it certainly wouldn't be reasonable to bring the one you have. That would be crazy. I had one, well, so the one I'm using is plastic, and it's from Walmart's other store, right? It's from Maxi Poly. So it's a heavy duty plastic table. That's what I'm using right now. I just put a mat on it. I've had them custom built out of wood, but then you really got to put something on it. Wood is not a good surface for doing anything. Yeah, I mean, it's a normal country. You can buy desks. Tony says, Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine were great. I did love Deep Space Nine. It's true. Those I've seen all of. Babylon 5, I assume, came after Deep Space Nine. I know they were really contemporary, but I think Deep Space like beat them to the punch on Space Station soap opera. But I like Space Station soap opera. Like, there's something about that that really does work. Babylon 5 was on a new network, and so not a lot of budget for special effects. They really should just not have done special effects. That would have helped. It was weird. Mexican Righteous. Hey, Scott, how is Las Penitas? Are the beaches nice, and is it a nice place for an expat to move to? Oh, Leo's in Pensacola. All right, I'm going to look up. Pensacola is currently 30. Yep, they are warmer than us right now today. And it's awful. But we're on an exceptionally cold day. And I think Pensacola's in kind of their warm time. Yeah, you're going down to 24 tonight. And we will go down to a low of 23. We're actually going to be a little bit colder. Red Dog says Babylon 5 got better. I hope so. I mean, the show's good. The actors are rough, really rough. Las Penitas is really nice. I mean, I picked it as my favorite beach in the country. There's a reason why I moved there. You know, Las Penitas has only so many tourists. Or expats. There's a whole community of Nicaraguans who live there. It's an actual fishing village, but it does have enough expats that it has some things. In general, I kind of feel like it's moving back towards fewer things. Like, so many businesses are closing up. Like, that's one of the biggest struggles, is the lack of things there. But there's a few restaurants, there's a few places to go that aren't just local places doing, you know, asado or whatever. So that's kind of good, but I like it because you are not trapped being purely a tourist, right? Like, you can actually live there and have it be home, and have it, you know, become a part of the place, and it's different, right? San Juan del Sur is so difficult to not just be part of the tourist. Some other places it's difficult to be that you're so isolated, right? It's all Nicaraguans and on the beaches, that's, you know, that may sound like, oh, right, we don't have to be around any tourists, any expats. Yeah, there's a lot of benefit to that, trust me. Yeah, okay. But there's also a certain amount of, it's difficult when you're the only one for most people. There's kind of a balance, and I think that Las Penitas is good at that balance. That you do have an opportunity to fit in and be part of the community. You do have an opportunity to be around other people who are going through the same things as you, and there are some resources. There are some really isolated beaches that you can definitely go check out, different places, and they can be really cool, but you may end up being, you know, the only expat in the zone, and then suddenly you're like, you know, sometimes I would just like to go to a restaurant with some more variety, and then you're like, there isn't any. And you're like, man, I'd really like to get some fiber internet. There isn't any. Having that balance in a place like Las Penitas is nice, for sure. I think it's among the best that you're going to find for most people. Now, if you really want to be around a lot of other expats, but obviously San Juan del Sur is your beach. But other than that, Leo says, kind of a stupid question, but are to-go boxes a thing in Nicaragua if you can't eat everything that you've ordered? Oh, yeah, people get food to go all the time. Para llevar. I want my food empacar para llevar. it's rare that you're going to find something in Nicaragua that's dramatically different, right? Like to-go boxes or, computer desks. This is an advanced country, right? We have modern computers and fiber internet and modern restaurants and everything. It's weird, and maybe this is because I've lived in a lot of countries, and so have some perspective on what's going to be normal or what's going to be extreme. I'm often surprised by how much people expect the style of things, the type of food, the variety, some things like that to be like the U.S. and like gaps in technology, things that are really unique to the U.S. to those to be replicated, and then surprised when very normal universal things exist, and it's like, oh, I was thinking there wouldn't be any. I don't know. It names there's road signs. You're like, yes, there's road signs. Like, oh, like I just didn't picture there being road signs. And you're like, how did you think it functioned? My dad is heading tonight. Night, Dad. Love you. So it's a funny combination, and I can only assume it comes from not having lived abroad, because when you go to like Spain or Italy or whatever. I think there's an expectation that it's going to be more similar to what you're used to, but like I don't know. I don't feel like people expect it to be quite as random. Maybe that's what I'm looking for is just how random the things that people expect there to be and what they expect there not to be, and I can only imagine that it's based mostly around tourism. People are often surprised that there aren't like hotels and a lot of like very American infrastructure. I don't even know how to say it right here. But then surprised when there's like basic infrastructure that has to exist for people to function. It's like almost people begin to assume everyone lives in a shack without electricity and travels on foot or by horse everywhere. And of course there are horses, but that's not how people get around, right? People drive luxury vehicles and live in mansions and have high-rise office buildings and have high-speed fiber internet and data centers. And, do we have the same number of them as the U.S.? No, of course not. But do they exist? Do we have the lottery? Do we have a stock exchange? Do we have office buildings and all the things you need to work? Like this is a country that makes software. This is a country that designs things. This is a country that builds things. This is, we're actually surprisingly modern in a lot of ways. Just not super rich, which I can only imagine that the degree to which the country is not as wealthy as people expect somehow throws people off as to how that will actually impact day-to-day life. But one of the things that is very different is things like cocktails. You can't get the variety of alcohol that you get in a lot of other countries. That's a thing that we're really lacking that no one guesses. Leo says, you probably commented on this before, but does your dad ever come to visit you? He does not. He wants to. But if my dad was capable of coming down here, he would move here. Without a doubt. He has had cancer for a long time. He first got they found cancer in 2016, and so he's been going through essentially chemo for 9 years, and that has really created a medical condition where he can't travel, and so he would really like to move down here because I'm an only child. He's got granddaughters here, and there is family back where he lives in New York, but there's not a lot. It's not like we have a big family, and it's not like that's where they're from. My father and my mother grew up in Ohio, the part that's near New York, so it's not like super far, but the family in Ohio is a ways away, and mostly they're not super close, and partially because my parents moved away when they were like, I don't know, 20, 23-ish, pretty young. They moved to New York, and then didn't have me for a while, and then when they had me, they were in their early 30s or just about. And I grew up in New York. And so we would visit family in Ohio, but Ohio is far away and distant for me, not as like less for them because they grew up there, but they had this like severing from family kind of thing. And then my dad's mom and his sister moved out, and because they didn't, I was my grandmother's only grandchild, and my aunt was single at the time, and so they were like, oh well, there's only this one kid. Why be in Ohio? Let's move out there with my dad. So they moved down the street from where I grew up. So I grew up with my parents, my dad's sister, and my dad's mom, and that was the family to me. And then my aunt got married when I was 10. So I have cousins, but they're way younger. And so now, obviously, my grandmother is long gone. And my mother passed away a very long time ago. What year? I have to think about what year this is. So she passed away 22 years ago. And my grandmother passed away 21 years ago. So it's really just my dad and his sister living out there in Western New York, and my cousins, who they're a lot younger than me, but they're still old, right? One of them has moved away, lives in Texas, and the other lives maybe an hour away. That's kind of it. So for my dad, it would be absolutely, he would like to be in Nicaragua and be near the grandkids, and they're very close with him, and they talk to him every day online and stuff. But and when we go to New York, we stay with my dad, and we're very close. But it's he's not able to travel, so that's very unfortunate because he's the one family member who would just pack up and come. And that's totally, my future with my children is, well, I just have to wait to see where they want to live, and that's where I'm going to live. Like, obviously, that's just, what else do you do? Leo says, they found mine in 2007, but I've been cancer-free for these many years. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. My dad's had a really good run at fighting it. Like, it's not getting worse. They're very happy with the progress. It's just that it stops him from being able to travel at all. He doesn't go anywhere. And if he could, it would be here. And then we've done everything, right? We've looked into, I would fly up and drive him down if that's what it took. We would go and we've looked at private flights. We've tried to come up with any way to make it happen, and it's just not feasible. Tusk is here. Hey, Scott, good to see you. I just finished rewatching Alien Resurrection. I've been on an Alien and Predator kick lately. Very nice. It's not quite as cool as my Bottle Rocket in 48 Hours kick, but, whatever. Whatever floats your boat. I am an Aliens fan. That is true. Good stuff. Where's my mouse? There it is. We have been on just over 2 hours. Not a long one. Not a ton of people, but we've got a fair number. I'm really looking forward to hopefully being done with this project next week. Not done, but to the point where I can step back and breathe a little bit. I just got these like stupid little milestones I've got to get through and get things working, and it's exhausting. I'm pushing really, really hard. I'm pushing some stuff off. Originally, I was trying to go live tomorrow. Now I'm really looking for like Monday, Tuesday. So we'll see. My daughter has to go to the hospital next week for some tests, and so that's like Tuesday. So I don't know if I'm going to be like disappearing and going with them to be in Managua, or if I'm staying here to watch over everybody here and then getting more time to work. Like, I don't know. I know nothing. It's all very exhausting. So yeah, let's see. That seems to be working. Sorry, I will be right with everyone. Jan says, we just need to coordinate the march somehow. Yeah, we got to do that. That's Monday. So that shouldn't be a problem because there's no way I'm leaving until Tuesday. I don't think so. Should be fine. Even if I did leave Monday, it would be Monday night. Boy, it'd be nice if I had my driver's license. It's supposed to be in Managua sometime soon. And this may not be my strength. Coordinating the march, it's definitely not my strength either. Always so busy. Like, I just need people to tell me where to be, what to do, and then I'm good. Like, I show up, I do the thing. Right? I'm really good at showing up and doing the thing. Even if it's not something I want to do, it's just, oh, it needs to be done. I will be there. I'm going to do the thing. But scheduling stuff, coordinating stuff, no, not my thing, not at all. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm actually on shift right now too, by the way. Like I'm actually so oh my gosh, over the weekend. So one of the things my company does is we oversee IT for data centers, and we lost an entire data center in the U.S. over the weekend, and no one's real fault. It was just sometimes the cooling systems go, right? But it's a data center that has an awful lot of people who don't know how to do IT. And so loads and loads of companies that are like, we got to be back up. Well, this is never supposed to go down. We're like, why don't you fail over to your redundancy? Redundancy? Who has that? Well, you're complaining on a weekend that your customers are all down, and you seem to be designed for that to happen occasionally. Why are you upset? Like, is this happening often? Is there a frequency problem? Well, no. Okay. What? Like, are we operating within correct parameters? Well, yeah. Okay. What are you upset about? Are you upset that you took chances that you knew were going to burn you, and now you're being burned and you have to admit that you screwed up to all your customers? That's what it feels like. Janice says, I have to have Ramon ask some friends. That means I have to remember to do that, like soon. Yeah, you don't have a lot of time. Need to get on that, Janet. Oh gosh, tomorrow's Friday. I really hope I don't have to go out tomorrow night. I do not have it in me. I do not. The idea of going out sounds nice, but stepping away from my desk when there's so much to do, that's one of the things. Like when I'm in a project, it's like, oh my gosh, I got to get this stuff done. I want to move forward because it's in my brain. I want to get it out of my brain so that my brain can relax. And that's hard to do when I'm constantly getting pulled away to do other things, right? Like, it's just a lot. I like to be productive. Like, obviously, when I can, I spend time with my kids. That's my priority. But when I'm not spending time with my kids, like, most people are, like, watching TV or doing stuff. And sometimes I'm in the mood for that. But I generally prefer to work, especially when I'm engineering. Like, if I'm fixing things, that gets boring. And so at some point, you're like, do I really need to do this? Can I push this off? Like, but when it's engineering and you're, like, creating stuff and, like, it's, you know... And you know, obviously part of it is you're looking forward to when someone comes to look at it and it's like, you built this, you did this is amazing. You're like, ah, thanks, right? And even if they're not saying that, you can imagine that they will, and that makes you feel good and be excited. So that's kind of, you know, engineering is this really cool thing to be doing that I really enjoy. So trying to find ways to do that to me is it's a lot of fun. So instead of just watching a show and just being passive, for the most part, I prefer this. If I want to have a show, so I've got a TV. That's why there's a TV up there, small, like, I don't know. It's probably actually a 40-inch. It's not a 32-inch. It's small, but it's not bad. It's just a little bit beyond my monitors, and it has sound. And I've got a remote, and I've got a Linux laptop right here. So I just double screen it, and normally it's like right now I'm using it for testing software on a different platform than my desktop. But I can throw Babylon 5 up there or whatever and just have it on in the background, and I can just slap the space bar next to me to pause it, and so I'm here working, but it's kind of just going on. That I can handle sometimes, and that's nice. That I like as TV, where it's like, okay, it's kind of like I'm enjoying that, but I'm able to focus. And yesterday, my eldest, Liesel, came in, and we binged 2 seasons of Red Dwarf together. That was really cool. She was like, I feel like watching Red Dwarf. I'm like, yes. So she came in my office, and we just spent the day watching Red Dwarf, which was really cool. Janet says, I was going to go to Via Via. Jar is playing with a new group, it looks like, but I don't have time either. Leo says, you have to celebrate. It's the 4th of July. I do not celebrate the 4th of July. I'm celebrating the 7th of July. That is my limit for the weekend. Oh, but I think that means tomorrow's a day off from work. It didn't even occur to me that my CEO was like, "Do you need anything for tomorrow?" And I'm like, "No." And I didn't even cross my mind that she was saying that because it's a holiday. I'm so out of touch with everything and so busy. That's hilarious. Like, yeah, obviously we're not working tomorrow. Id Group, love Red Dwarf. I don't know many fans. Oh, I actually had I knew a lot of fans growing up. In Western New York, it was very popular. All my friends, no, an awful lot of my friends in high school watched that show. It was a really common one in high school to watch, and it was older by the time I was in high. Well, no, that's not really true. It was probably on season 2 when I went to high school. So it was in those hot years when it was really good. Not that it got bad, but they did 13 seasons, but spread out. They had gaps of like. Did they have a 10-year gap? 2009 to 2019, maybe? No, that doesn't seem right. They had some big gaps. But season 13 was not too long ago. I'm hopeful that they'll do some more. I've not seen every single episode. I think I've seen all the way through season 11. But it's been a little bit. My wife has been a fan for a really long time. But it's cool that it's one of those things that I watched that only with high school friends. My parents were not into that. My mother and I would watch like Are You Being Served, Keeping Up Appearances, Monarch of the Glen. My dad watched Monarch of the Glen too. As time goes by, I think I'm the only one who watched. Oh, the Piglet Files. Those are good. Gosh. Those shows really take me back. But that's one of the reasons why I have a Jellyfin server. I have all those on Jellyfin anytime. Where it's like, and my wife has been like, I'll go in when she's having a lot of low energy. She's having an anemia episode, and so she's been watching TV a bit more than usual. And because now that she knows what's going on, she's like, I gotta rest. I gotta just. So she puts on either the Golden Girls or Are You Being Served. Those are like her kind of recovery shows. No matter what's happening, she can watch those. So she's been watching a lot of Are You Being Served recently. Now that's one that I grew up watching with my mom when I was quite young, and love that show. Id Group says, what about the Red Green Show? You know, it's funny. I think everyone thinks that they're the only ones who've seen the Red Green Show, but definitely, I grew up in Western New York, and Paul, who just came in, grew up in Wisconsin. So like that was normal TV when I was a kid. I'm not a huge fan of it. I never found it that good, but it was quite popular, very, very normal. I grew up, no, this is not TV, but I grew up listening to Prairie Home Companion. That was huge for me as a kid. And I've read like every Garrison Keillor book. I know so much of Prairie Home Companion over the years. And it makes me so sad that all those old shows aren't available. Actually, I've not looked that up in other forms, but I'm sure that it doesn't really exist in some way that you can. I love the show too. Does the reboot of Are You Being Served? Reboot? I'm not aware of a reboot. Are you thinking of Grace and Favor, the continuation, which is very different than a reboot? Because it's I mean, I love it. I actually like it better than the original show, but it's not episodic. It's a story arc. And it's just a continuation of the original show, but in a different format with the same characters. And but if there's a reboot, I'm unaware of it. Are You Being Served reboot? Oh, there's the 2016 Goofy movie thing. Is that what you mean? I've seen that. It's not good. Like, it's an homage, right? Like, it's kind of funny going back, doing it again, having different people play the characters, but it's really lacking something. And the whole thing's just 31 minutes. And that was it. Like, they never really meant it to be anything. Are You Being Served 2? I'm a pretty hardcore Are You Being Served fan. I feel really confident this doesn't really exist. You have to remember PBS airing original Doctor Who, of course. I've been watching Doctor Who since 1981. Yes, are you being served too? What are you being served to? I've never heard of this. I just searched on it, and the search engine says does not exist. When you put those words together, it comes up as this does not exist at all. What? According to Google AI, so this, it must be true because this is wrong always. It says there is no sequel called Are You Being Served 2? That's actually what comes up. It completely denies it. It says this doesn't exist. So that makes me think that it does exist, so I'm looking for it. So here's a thing. Are You Being Served? It just says volume 2 though. Oh, sorry, it's Are You Being Served Again? Okay, so that's a fake title. That is what I referred to. That's real name is Grace and Favor. That's not a reboot. That is the continuation. That is the same characters, same story. There's a break between the end of Are You Being Served and Grace and Favor. And in between is actually only a few years. It's not nearly as long as it felt like at the time. And that's when they switched from episodic to the story arc of just 2 seasons for Are You Being Served Again. I'm sorry, for what they... So in the U.S., to sell it, they called it Are You Being Served Again? But it was Grace and Favor in the U.K. Because, you know, Grace Brothers. And it's a reference to retirement, Grace and Favor. So that's the part. I like that better than the original episodic version. Because the originals, every episode really didn't carry from one episode to the next. It wasn't a deep story. But with Grace and Favor, you couldn't miss one. You had to go from one to the next, and like the story just kept going. And I liked, shoot, what's her name? The new character that they brought on was really good, and that's actually, it's funny. One of the quotes, my wife and I are really big. We have a number of TV shows that she and I just binged like crazy 25 years ago when we were first dating and then first married. And one of them is Are You Being Served? And Grace and Favor, and Frasier and a few others. And it's Grace and Favor more than anything else that we quote constantly. There's so much, and one of it is, sometimes I'm like this, and sometimes I'm like that, and sometimes, but she's happy. It's you have to watch the show. But so often people will say something and my wife and I will look at each other and be like, but she's happy. And it's us quoting Grace and Favor from so long ago. But I really like those. Those are great. Yeah, if you're into Are You Being Served, you gotta watch Grace and Favor because it's such a good, like, it makes you feel good about what happened to those characters. It makes their futures so much brighter. I think, honestly, Are You Being Served kind of gave a dark look at the characters of Are You Being Served because they were lived in London. They were so poor. They had no futures. And when they retired, it was like, now you're heading home to a little flat where you're stuck. And it just seemed dark. And of course, England of the 1970s was dark. Like, they had very little hope for things. And by the time Grace and Favor came out, the original show had run for a while. It was into the 90s, early 90s. And England was coming into a really good time. And they all lived in a manor house in the country. And it was such a beautiful setting. And you got to see them outdoors. And it was filmed, so the original was filmed all on one set, very dim light, in a department store that was underground, right? And when you filmed Grace and Favor, they actually filmed outside on farms, and it's so lively and bright and colorful, and it just gives you such a different feel about their lives, and you're like, oh, they went on to a good retirement. It seems like it kind of makes you want to share that life in a way that you certainly didn't in the original. I'm having a moment where I can't spell prairie. This is not what I want. Oh, there's... Giving up. There's actually a town in Missouri called Prairie Home. That's hilarious. Census 280 people. But that's not the state where it takes place. But yeah, I love that show. Although my all-time favorite show is As Time Goes By. Love that show. Yes, Mr. Humphreys was so good. I was just talking to my daughters about his character and kind of like the important role that his character was in British television and stuff. Joanne Haywood, that's whose character. I really like her character in Grace and Favor. What else did she do? She did almost nothing before that. First of the Summer Wine. She did a bit of that. Which, that's something I need to get. I gotta remember. Grace and Favor, Next of Kin. EastEnders. Everyone ended up on EastEnders. Emmerdale. Oh, she did another soap opera. And she's been, just a little bit on Coronation Street. Wait a minute. She just did Gran Turismo. She's just a tiny piece. But she's in, after all these years, she did a little 1994 movie, and then she was in the movie Gone in 2014, just short films, and then in 2023, the first real movie she ever did, Gran Turismo. That's so funny. I have to watch it and watch for her. That's one of the things I love is watching for the small actors from like old British shows. I mean, like, where do they show up? Funny. First of the Summer Wine. That's what I need to get. Okay, Scott, how about Waiting for God? I've watched some of it. I never really got into it. Keeping Up Appearances, that I watched. Oh, Vicar of Dibley. Love Vicar of Dibley. Oh, these are actually hard to find. I would have expected that to be easier. That's my fave. Wait, which one's your fave? Waiting for God? I just finished watching it again for the millionth time. All right, here we go. Last of the Summer Wine. Season 31. Is that possible? Summer Wine, 1973. Hold on, we're looking this up. Besides using air conditioners in the room where you use your computer equipment, do you have any other devices or things that you use to help with either the heat or the humidity? I mean, it's not really that hot here. I mean, it's warm. It's warm all the time, but air conditioning is plenty. Oh, Vicar of Dibley. Yeah, Vicar of Dibley is so good. Oh my gosh. Yes, 31 seasons, Last of the Summer Wine. How did I not know that it ran for that long? 295 episodes. That is, wow. That is wild. Okay, I gotta download that. I'm getting it right now. Right now. Let's see. Is this really 31 seasons? Yes, it is. 31 seasons plus specials. Yep. I'm also now watching, oh shoot, of Fools and Horses or whatever. It's weak, but it's got, like, it was so popular that I kind of have to give it a try, right? So we'll see. Wow, this is huge. All right, download started. We're getting it. Walking Dead was a series that resembles the streets of USA currently. Walking Dead, you didn't know it was a documentary. Sorry. I couldn't get past season 1. I assume you mean of The Walking Dead? How far did I watch in The Walking Dead? I can't remember if I got past season 1. There's bits of The Walking Dead that I like and bits that I just don't. I tried the other one. So I like zombie movies for the most part. But, it's like the... Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's like the end of the world survival stuff. I find that interesting and fun. But Walking Dead gets so much drama and stuff that you're just kind of like, meh. I like Shaun of the Dead. Now that's really good stuff. That is an amazing movie. First of us. See if we can find this. First of the Summer Wine. See what we can get. 2 seasons? Is that all there was? Let's find out. Yeah, it looks like just 2 seasons. Yep, perfect. Get torrent. There we go. Oh, I couldn't get past the first few episodes of Fools and Horses. Yeah, it's rough. You're like, what? So the first episode to the second, you can't even tell what's going on. It gets a little bit better, and it goes on for so long. I just can't figure out what's happening in a lot of it so far. And it doesn't draw me back in. So I've got to be in the mood to be able to get through one. But one of the reasons I like it is I'm a big fan of Frasier, including the Frasier reboot, and the star of Fools and Horses. Oh, I just hit the camera with my foot. What am I doing? Is from Fools and Horses. And he was also the star of the Piglet Files, which I like a lot. And so I'm like, okay, this is him when he was young. This is what made him famous, was this unbelievably large sitcom that just went on for forever. And so I'm like, okay, we can give this a try. So I'm kind of trying to figure it out. I'm trying to find the best Waiting for God. So Waiting for God's worth it? Am I trusting you guys on this? Never really watched it. Oh, Father Ted. That's a really good one. You have to watch... oh yeah, 5 seasons, Waiting for God. And it's Stephanie Cole. Yes... Wait, I did watch Waiting for God. Oh my gosh. Going back and looking at this, I'm like, wait a minute. I know this show. I'm sure I watched every episode. I just forgot. Holy cow. Oh my gosh, I have to have this. All right. What's a good copy? Oh, who's here? NBA says, hey, Scott, I never got a notification for this live. Oh, that's weird. Sometimes it's just bad at that. I'm not really sure what causes it to be like that. Oh, that is not a good copy. I do not want that. 2023. posted. All right. Well, this one looks like it's the good one. We're going to give it a try. I can't believe I forgot about this show, or forgot its name. But I probably haven't watched Waiting for God since it was current, right? I probably watched it as it was coming out. Weird. I'm also currently getting all the Teenage Mutant Ninja movies. Because you never know when someone's going to be like, hey, do you have that? Oh, I just got Quantum Leap. I'm going to go back and watch that a little bit. Trying to think of what I got recently. Sometimes my dad asks me for things, and he'll be like, oh, can you track this down? Let me see what comes up. So Babylon 5, Red Dwarf. I just watched a little bit of Amen recently. That was probably a couple weeks ago. Ballerina is out. The Old Guard 2 is out. I haven't seen either yet, but got potential. But Quantum Leap, I'm looking forward to watching those again. I just tracked down all the Once Upon a Times in China. Need to watch those. Let's see. Kiss Me, Kate the Musical. That looks good. Just came out last year. Pride and Prejudice has a new musical from a couple of years ago. That looks interesting. What was the name of that? So I don't believe it. That was a really famous sitcom, and I can't think of what it was. BBC, I don't believe it. Scott, I'm really interested in northern Nicaragua. Oh, now someone wants to talk about Nicaragua. Sorry, we're on to BBC sitcoms. That's what we're doing. One Foot in the Grave. That's the one I was looking for. Which is not my favorite of shows. But the main character from One Foot in the Grave was on Father Ted and was also on The Vicar of Dibley, I think. Okay, MB, I'm really interested in northern Nicaragua. The mountains and untouched nature look magnificent. We need more vlogs of that area. We do. I am waiting for my driver's license and really hope to be able to get all over and get that stuff. Let me tell you, nobody wants to get out and travel more than me, and it has been between work and not having a driver's license. It has just been insane. So yeah, I really want to get up, especially up north, because I like the mountains. I like all that stuff. There's so much cool stuff to go see. There we go. One Foot in the Grave. Oh, excellent. Look at that. I feel like we're being productive on this particular live stream. I'm tracking down important BBC shows that will make me happy. And honestly, these years, like the early 1990s, that's like the best years. That's like the BBC had figured it out. And I was talking to some British folks, and it's like the 1990s were kind of the pinnacle of British culture. It's like the years when they weren't being colonial, and they weren't poor like in the 1970s. The 1970s were hard in England, like really hard. I mean, so were the 50s and 60s, right? Like that whole time period was really rough. And if you watch James Bond, you kind of have one feeling about England. But if you watch like TV from England during that, you're like, oh, normal people had it pretty hard. And then in like the second half of the 80s and the 90s, and the early-ish 2000s, I think that like there was this explosion of British culture that was like so good. Like the BBC was spot on, and they made sitcom after sitcom, and they had some romances, and they were pumping out actors and just all this great stuff. And like pub culture was booming, and there was enough of like classic England that like it was just they were figuring out how to do what they had always done really well. And then there was this transition where like, oh, the internet and all this American culture kind of took over England, and it wiped away this history of really deep British culture, and it left the UK as kind of this Americanized, bland, uninteresting place. So I was first in England in 2007, and it was still pretty amazing, but you could feel it fading away. And I was like, oh, this is so cool, but it didn't feel like that was the future of England. It felt like that was the past of England. And that's part of what makes England so cool, right, is some of this old stuff, right? Old buildings, old this, old that, and it's really cool. And it didn't feel like they had like this amazing new culture coming. It felt like everything was just trying to cling to what they used to have. And by the time I was back there working, maybe 10 years later, not quite, a little bit, 8, 9 years later, even by that point, you're just like, oh, it's mostly gone. And now talking to people who are there, like, I don't even want to go back. People who are from there, like, there's no reason to visit again. Like, it's all gone. All the wonderful UK of our childhoods just isn't there. And it's so sad that that stuff has gone away, because, like, that world of Vicar of Dibley, the world of keeping up appearances, like, England wasn't rich, but it was, that pain of poverty had passed. And, being able to go to the pub and like lifestyles were good and food was getting good, and now it's like poor again, and like it's back to the 1970s where no one knows if their grandparents are going to be able to keep the heat on, and there isn't enough food, and healthcare is collapsing, and the culture is gone, so they don't even have that going for them. Like, whoa, it's rough now in a lot of ways. It's very sad, but that 1990s was so good for the UK, and so watching those shows from that era, yeah, life was, it wasn't perfect, but they had it was the pinnacle of the culture. Jan says, so I didn't have much time for TV when you were watching, but a bit more recent shows. Doc Martin, my dad watches that. I have seen some, but not a lot. I love that show. It looks like there are some newer ones I didn't get to see. So one I like, if you like Supernatural, this is gonna be a funny one for my group. I like Primeval from the BBC. It's a British show. I don't even know what year it's from. I want to say 2005, 2007, maybe. My wife and I used to watch that when it was new. It's pretty goofy, but very Supernatural-esque and contemporary with that. So I've been, and I think everyone knows, I've been watching Supernatural with my kids, which is really cool. We always pick shows and watch stuff together and do, we binge a bunch of things. So my eldest and I are binging Red Dwarf when we have time, but me and both daughters, late at night, normally between 11 and 1. I mean, this is crazy. We start somewhere between 11 and 1, and then watch a couple of 3 hours of something. Roswell, Supernatural. We'll go back and watch older things. Sometimes we watch my shows. Sometimes we watch my kids' shows. But we watch stuff together. And so we do it late at night. So my wife goes to sleep, and my kids are awake. And I'm like, okay, I'm done working. I need time to wind down. And so it's something that I do with my kids. And sometimes we play video games. Like, my youngest will play Skyrim, so we'll all just watch Skyrim or something. But when we're watching shows, we carefully find different shows like this that we'll watch and watch them together. So we're on season 6 of Supernatural. That is a long show to work through, let me tell you. It's pretty decent. I like the show. It's a quirky show to have going on for such a long time. Like, I can't believe that they came up with what the heck? 15 seasons of this wacky show, but they did. And it's very watchable. It's very just sit down and enjoy. You don't have to be deep into it. But it's got enough of a story that you kind of feel like you need to be connected to the arc. So you can't just hop in and watch it. I feel like it doesn't quite work. But we'll see. Maybe that's just the first 5 seasons. I don't know. But I'm downloading all these shows now. So I'm going to have soon Last of the Summer Wine, First of the Summer Wine, One Foot in the Grave, the reboot of Quantum Leap. I already have the original. Waiting for God. Yeah, that's not a bad lineup of stuff downloading right now. That will be entertaining once I have that all. I can't believe I forgot about Waiting for God. So that actor, did I say One Foot in the Grave? Did I get that? Yes. Okay. Hold on. IMDb. Waiting for God. I really like keeping up appearances from that same time frame. I find that very comfortable. That's one of my comfort go-to shows that I can watch anytime. Is it Graham Crowden? Boy, these actors passed away a long time ago. What else is he known for? Oh, he did a bunch of James Bond. Calendar Girls 2003, which I'm pretty sure I have that one. If you have not seen Calendar Girls, that is a good movie. I do have it. Good, good. He was in Foyle's War, Waking the Dead. So he's been doing stuff for so long. He would have made a good Doctor Who. He was in the movie Out of Africa. Nope, maybe I don't really know him from anything else. Interesting. It's funny that that's an actor I know so well, and I only know him for a show that I've forgotten about. He was in 4 episodes of Doctor Who in 1979. I don't know what he played. NBA says, question. Wait. Oh, Patricia also says, I never got a notification for this live either. Your YouTuber is starting the holiday early. Yeah, it probably is. NBA says, question about border runs. If someone lives near the northern border with Honduras, are they then required to drive to the southern border, Costa Rica, for a border run? Will Honduras not suffice? Honduras will not suffice. That is not an actual border. This is a single border zone, so the northern border is at Mexico. So it's not that you're not allowed to go to Honduras. It's just there's no passport stamp. They're allowed to stamp you, but it's not an official stamp. It's not a hard stamp. It's just a welcome to Honduras stamp. Like you could do that between states, right? Like Oklahoma could be like, oh, you're leaving Texas, welcome to Oklahoma, right? They're allowed to stamp a passport if you have one, but you're not required to have a passport. So going between here now, if you're a tourist, you're required to have a passport because you were required to have a passport in Honduras, right? And you're required to have one in Nicaragua. So you're just required to have one. And so since you're required to have one, they're allowed to stamp you should they want to. And they normally do, but they don't have to stamp you. And so the not that long ago, I came into Nicaragua. My stamp was Guatemala. Like coming from Belize, I got stamped in at Guatemala. No country in between bothered to stamp me because the official stamp is the Guatemala. That's when I crossed the border. So even as a non at that stamp, I was still a tourist. When I got that stamp, and it caused some problems because that was the stamp I had when I got my permanent residency in Nicaragua. So it was this weird situation of I live in Nicaragua. There's like a transition off of your stamp that they have to do. There's just a little bit of complication. Like the first time you get residency, it's like because you were a tourist and you're here, how do you do the paperwork? So there's a little bit of shuffling that happens. It's not a big deal. But there is this like moment of shuffling that you don't have at other times. And when they did it, it happened to be this moment when I was on a Guatemalan stamp and living in Nicaragua. So it was this very awkward situation of trying to deal with everything because it was like, what? Where's your stamp? How did this, And it's not like I'm the only one, but it did create a little bit of extra confusion there. But yeah, so that's why Honduras does not count because it's not a border. The CA4 is a single border zone. Gypsy Traveler, must you have your passport with you at all times in Nicaragua? Legally, yes. Or can you show them a photo of it and a stamp in your phone and the stamp in your phone? Certainly you can give that a try, but assume that that will not work. I've been asked for my passport a total of 1 time in 5 years, so it's not a big thing. I generally recommend, and of course I'm recommending that you don't obey the law, so be aware, right? I am not an authority and I can't tell you to break the law, but I generally do not carry my passport. Now I don't have to carry a passport. Now I get to carry a cedula, so I'm okay. But prior to that, I would carry ID for sure, but I would carry my U.S. state ID, my driver's license, and I would carry a picture of my passport, and I knew where my passport was, and I knew someone could get it if I absolutely had to. But the last thing I wanted to do was have something happen and my passport get lost. That would be absolutely awful. And so I assumed that the risk of losing my passport was worse than the risk of getting caught without one. And in 5 years, I've been pulled over a ton, and only once in all that time did someone ask for a passport in Nicaragua, and I didn't have it, and they gave us a little bit of a hard time, and it wasn't the end of the world. And even with that one time, even that day, had I known everything that was going to go down, I still wouldn't have carried the passport. Like, the risk of losing my passport is relatively high, and the risk of something bad happening by not having it, not very high. So I find, and I did a video on this years ago, where I said I think it's better to keep it in a safe. And that's what we do. We keep ours in a safe. If anything goes wrong, someone can go in the safe, grab our passports, drive to wherever we are. Right now, we live here, so knowing someone who will drive to wherever we are to give us a passport once every half decade for some emergency, right? And what's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to get a fine. How bad can it be? $100? What are they going to do? Throw me in jail for what, 1 night while they're waiting for the passport to show up? This is not a go to jail, not go to prison kind of offense, right? It's the worst, absolute extreme, I've never heard of it happening to anyone scenario, is like wait in a police station for it to show up, get yelled at a whole bunch, and pay a small fine. If in a decade I get to avoid losing my passport because I did that, well, it's for me, losing my passport would be this huge thing. And not having it just isn't. So that's my thing. Yes, technically you are supposed to have it on you at all times. In practice, if you have really good coverage and stuff, it's really not a big deal. Could you leave it with your lawyer? I mean, I suppose I could. I do need it from time to time, right? So if you're going to go to Migracion or anything like that, you need to have your passport. I could leave mine with my lawyer. That would be, I feel like that would be extreme. But I guess if your house is empty and there's no one to go get stuff, then that would make sense. If you've got a lawyer who's going to jump, my lawyer would jump in the car to come get me, right? If yours is going to do that, then not a big deal. Hello. Everything okay?
Alyssa got hurt.
Is she?
I mean, you think that she's okay, but...
Okay. Hey guys, I have to, I've got to run. Actually, we've been on for 3 hours. Let me just, my daughter's been hurt. I need to go. They think she's okay. Jay says, Scott, it seems so relaxing inside your office. Not even lights from passing cars outside. That's because the road is out there. This is a parking, my garage and driveway is behind me. No noise at all. It's not quite true. But care to give us a tour of your place at night on the way out to your porch? I could, but I can't tonight. Janet says, I don't carry my passport unless I need to. Sorry guys, I got to run. My daughter is probably okay, but she's hurt, so I have to go check on her. Thanks so much. Have a good night. We will get the information out about the GoFundMe recovery in a day or two as soon as we have that figured out and make sure that we have that okay. Thanks everyone so much. Have a good night. I will see all of you tomorrow.